The night has already begun to soften the world. Somewhere beyond the edge of waking thought, the air grows quieter, and time loosens its grip. The sky stretches wide and deep, holding stars that do not hurry. Stone cools under the dark. Water slows its movement. Wind forgets where it was going. There is nothing you need to do here. No effort is required. The world is allowed to move on its own. In this quiet space, far from clocks and names, the ancient earth begins to breathe again. Not as it once was in noise and crowds, but as it remains beneath everything. Patient, layered, waiting. Civilizations do not appear suddenly here. They emerge like shapes in mist, their edges soft, their presence gentle. Long before memory learned to measure itself, there were places that drew human attention in silence. Not because they demanded it, but because they endured. Stone gathered upon stone. Paths formed where feet passed again and again. Firelight flickered against walls that did not yet know how long they would stand. These places were not called wonders then. They were simply there. As the night deepens, the land itself begins to reveal faint contours. A river reflects starlight without a sound. A desert cools grain by grain. Far away, the sea breathes in a slow, endless rhythm, lifting and lowering without urgency. Human presence is felt only lightly. A distant silhouette pauses. A figure listens to the wind instead of speaking. The sounds of daily life fade early here, as if the world understood the need for rest long before words existed for it. What will one day be remembered as greatness begins quietly, not with declaration, but with repetition. Hands learn the weight of stone. Eyes learn the path of the sun and the patience of shadows. Structures rise slowly, as if unsure whether they truly wish to interrupt the sky. Night after night, the same stars pass overhead. They watch without judgment. They do not record names. They simply remain, allowing human effort to unfold beneath them. In this half-lit world, the idea of permanence begins to take shape. Not as ambition, but as hope. A wish that something might last longer than breath, longer than footsteps fading into dust. The land receives these wishes without promise. There are no dates here, no sharp edges of time. Only the sensation of many nights folding into one another. Stone warms in the day and releases its heat slowly after sunset. Water finds paths through channels carved not by force, but by patience. Even silence seems layered, deeper in some places than others. The human world moves softly. A small light flickers and then dims. Somewhere, fabric shifts in the breeze. The scent of earth rises as the ground cools. Everything prepares for rest. These early moments are not about achievement. They are about alignment. People learn where the land allows building and where it resists. They learn which directions feel open, which feel closed. The world teaches through stillness. Gradually, certain places begin to hold more attention than others. Not loudly, not urgently, just enough to draw return. A hill that catches the first light. Plain that holds echoes. A shore where the sea seems to speak more clearly at night. What will later be called wonder is, at this stage, simply familiarity. A sense that something belongs exactly where it is. That stone and sky have reached a quiet agreement. As the hours drift, the mind no longer needs to follow. Thoughts slow on their own, stretching out like long shadows under moonlight. The body recognizes this rhythm instinctively. Breath deepens. Muscles release. There is nothing to remember, nothing to anticipate. Only the feeling of being carried gently backward into a time that does not ask questions. Civilizations, like the night, do not announce themselves. They arrive through repetition, through calm persistence, through the simple decision to place one stone carefully, then another, and to return the next day without urgency. Above it all, the stars continue their slow passage. They have seen beginnings before. They will see endings too. But in this moment, they offer only quiet presence. The ancient world settles into its earliest sleep, and you are free to settle with it. The night does not move forward. It deepens. Darkness gathers gently, not as absence, but as shelter. The land rests inside it. Stone, water, and sky share the same slow breath. Nothing is separate here. Nothing is urgent enough to disturb the quiet in this stillness. Time begins to loosen further. The idea of before and after softens, like edges worn smooth by centuries of touch. What matters now is not sequence, but presence. Somewhere far away, a structure takes shape without sound. Not finished, not named, only suggested. This form exists more in intention than in completion. It waits patiently, allowing the night to pass through it. Human life remains close to the ground. Movements are small, deliberate. A figure pauses, listening. Another passes by like a shadow, leaving no mark. Voices are rare and low, dissolving quickly into the air. The world learns to be still together. The earth carries memory differently than people do. It does not recall events. It remembers weight, pressure, warmth, and release. Each stone placed leaves a faint echo, not of effort, but of contact. Over time, these echoes gather, layering quietly beneath the surface. Nothing rises quickly. Nothing falls suddenly. The land allows what it allows as the night stretches on. The elements return to their gentle patterns. Wind traces familiar paths. Water follows curves it has known for longer than thought. Even fire, when it appears, moves carefully, aware of the darkness around it. These places, the ones that will someday be spoken of in hushed tones, are not yet extraordinary. They are simply persistent. They remain while other things drift away. Moonlight touches surfaces unevenly. Some stones glow faintly. Others absorb the light and give nothing back. The contrast is soft, never sharp. The world avoids extremes here. Rest becomes contagious. The body recognizes the rhythm before the mind does. Shoulders sink. Jaw loosens. Breath finds a slower path in and out. There is no instruction guiding this change. It happens because the night permits it in the distance. Something tall interrupts the horizon. Not boldly, just enough to change the way the sky looks behind it. It does not seek attention. It accepts it when it comes. This is how significance begins, not through force, but through quiet distinction. Over many nights like this, familiarity turns into attachment. People return without knowing why. They stand nearby without speaking. They sit, they wait, they leave again. The place remains. It becomes a point of orientation, not only in space but in feeling. A sense of steadiness forms around it, like a low, continuous hum beneath waking life. The night thickens again, folding gently around everything it touches. Sound withdraws further. Even thought becomes heavier, slower, less inclined to travel. Nothing is lost in this slowing. Everything essential remains. Somewhere, far beyond awareness, the future is taking shape. Names will be given. Stories will be told. Lists will be made. But none of that exists yet, and none of it is needed now. For now, there is only the quiet agreement between human intention and the patience of the world. Stone waits. Water listens, sky watches without comment. The ancient earth does not rush toward greatness. It allows it to arrive when it is ready, if it arrives at all. The night holds this moment gently, as if aware that it will be remembered, not for what happened, but for how it felt. A calm spreads outward, slow and even, like ripples that never quite fade. There is no edge to it, no clear boundary where wakefulness ends and sleep begins. only a gradual release. The world settles deeper into itself, and you are welcome to do the same. There is nothing left to follow, nothing left to hold. The ancient night continues, unbroken. Before the land was known for what would rise upon it, it was already complete. The desert did not wait for meaning that it breathed slowly beneath the open sky, holding heat through the day and releasing it gently after sunset. Night settles here with a different weight. The air becomes wide and still. Sand cools grain by grain, as if the earth itself is exhaling. The horizon stretches so far that it seems to soften the idea of distance. Nothing demands attention. Nothing interrupts the quiet that I in the dark. The ground holds its shape patiently. Flat expanses meet the faint curve of the world. The sky above appears endless, scattered with stars that move too slowly to notice. Human presence enters this space carefully, not as intrusion but as observation. Small figures cross the land, leaving lines that fade before morning. Their movements are measured, almost hesitant, guided by the silence around them. Here, listening comes before action. Stone lies close to the surface, waiting without expectation. It does not call out. It does not resist. It simply remains where it has always been, carrying the memory of pressure and time. The desert teaches patience without instruction. As the night deepens, shapes begin to form not in sight, but in intention. A place is chosen not because it stands out, but because it feels steady, because the ground does not shift beneath the feet, because the sky above feels open and watchful. There is no announcement and no moment of decision that echoes, only a quiet return, night after night. Hands learn the texture of stone in low light. Rough edges are softened through repeated touch. Weight is tested slowly, carefully. Each movement respects the silence that surrounds it. The stars remain indifferent, yet present. They mark nothing, yet witness everything. Their light falls evenly, revealing and concealing at the same time. The land does not hurry these early gestures. It accepts them as part of its long rhythm. Stone is placed where stone allows itself to be placed. Nothing more is asked of it in this place. Effort is quiet. Strength is calm. There are moments when nothing happens at all. The night passes untouched. Wind crosses the plain without meeting resistance. Stillness becomes complete. These moments are not empty. They are full of preparation. Gradually, the idea of form begins to settle. Not fully visible, not yet realized. More like a memory of something that has not happened. A sense of upward movement, held gently against the flatness of the land. The desert does not question this change. It adjusts around it, the way it always has. Moonlight drifts across the ground, revealing subtle differences in texture. Some stones reflect faintly, others remain dark, absorbing the light without response. The contrast is soft, never sharp. Human figures move less now. They pause more often. They stand still and look upward, not searching for meaning, only noticing alignment. Breath slows naturally in this space. The wide horizon allows the body to release its tension. The mind follows, loosening its grip on sequence and expectation. There is no need to remember where one step ends and the next begins. The desert carries that for you did I end the distance. A faint rise breaks the smooth line of the land. It is barely noticeable, almost imagined. Yet it changes the way the stars appear behind it. The sky feels slightly altered, as if acknowledging a new presence. This is how endurance begins. Not loudly, not suddenly, night after night, the shape remains. It grows only through repetition, through agreement between intention and patience. The land accepts the change without resistance, because it is slow enough to belong. Silence wraps itself around the scene again. Wind lowers its voice. Even the stars seem farther away now, softened by the depth of the sky. The desert rests, and within that rest, something begins its long, quiet becoming. You do not need to follow it closely. It is enough to remain near the feeling of it. The night continues, wide and unbroken, inviting everything within it to slow just a little more. The night holds its position, unchanging and patient. Nothing presses forward. Nothing falls behind. The desert breathes evenly now, its warmth settled deep beneath the surface. Above it, the sky remains wide and quiet, offering no direction, only space. Stars drift in patterns too slow to measure, their light reaching the ground without urgency. The shape on the horizon remains. It does not call attention to itself. It simply exists, altering the silence in a way that feels almost natural. The land adjusts as it always does, allowing the new presence to rest within it. Human movement becomes rare. When it happens, it is soft and careful. Steps are placed with awareness. Hands release stones slowly, as if listening for the right moment to let go. There is no haste here, only repetition. Repetition becomes rhythm. Rhythm becomes calm. The world does not speak, but it responds. A breeze shifts direction, tracing the outline of what is slowly forming. Sand gathers briefly, then moves on. The structure remains, unchanged by these gentle tests. Moonlight slides across its surface, revealing edges that are still finding their place. Nothing is sharp. Nothing insists. The form grows upward without challenging the sky, as if it understands the vastness above it. This place begins to hold a different kind of silence. Not emptiness, but depth. Sound enters and does not return quickly. The air feels thicker, as though it remembers what has passed through it. Night after night, the same calm returns. The same stars. The same coolness settling into the ground. The consistency itself becomes reassuring. There is comfort in knowing that nothing unexpected will happen here. The body responds before thought does. Muscles soften. Breathing lengthens. The mind no longer searches for sequence or explanation. It rests in the steady presence of what is becoming. There is no celebration in these moments. No recognition of importance. The land does not mark progress. It only receives what is placed upon it and holds it without comment. Stone upon stone, not stacked in ambition, but in balance. At times, the night feels almost complete, as if nothing more could be added without disturbing it. And then, gently, another small adjustment is made. The structure accepts it. The silence deepens again. Distance loses meaning here. Near and far blur together beneath the dark. The horizon dissolves. Only the sensation of groundedness remains, anchoring everything gently in place. The desert does not resist permanence. It simply asks that it arrive slowly. Wind passes through again, quieter this time, as if it recognizes the stillness and chooses not to disturb it. Sand settles into shallow curves, then rests. Even movement seems to tire easily here. Above, the stars continue their passage, unchanged by what happens below. They do not approve or disapprove. They remain, offering a steady presence that asks nothing in return. This calm does not demand attention. It allows it. The structure, still unnamed, becomes part of the night's rhythm. Its presence feels inevitable, as though it has always been there, waiting to be noticed. The land no longer distinguishes between what is natural and what is shaped by human hands. Everything belongs to the same quiet. Thoughts drift more slowly now. They no longer hold their shape for long. One fades into the next, softened by the evenness of breath and the steady temperature of the air. There is nothing here to solve, nothing to anticipate. Only the sensation of being held within a vast, patient moment. The night grows heavier, not in weight, but in depth. Silence thickens, becoming almost tangible. The structure rests within it, unchallenged, unchanged. Far beyond awareness, time continues its movement. But here it barely matters. The present stretches wide enough to hold everything that needs to exist. The desert settles again, complete for now. Stone cools, air stills, sky remains open. You do not need to stay awake for this. The night will remember it for you that as everything slows further, the ancient world sinks gently into rest, carrying you with it, quietly, steadily, without asking you to follow. The night returns as it always does. Without announcement, it settles gently over the land, softening edges, quieting distance. The desert accepts it immediately, releasing the last warmth of the day in a slow, patient breath. What stands here now no longer feels new, that it feels present. The structure rises from the ground with a calm certainty, as though it has grown from the earth rather than been placed upon it. Its surface meets the darkness without resistance. Moonlight touches it briefly, then moves on, leaving the stone unchanged. There is no sense of arrival, only continuation. Human life moves around this place in small, careful motions. Figures appear and disappear at the edges of awareness, never staying long enough to disturb the stillness. Their sounds are muted, absorbed by the open space and the depth of night. Daily life unfolds quietly. Tools rest against stone. Hands pause more often than they move. The rhythm is unhurried, shaped by the certainty that there is no need to rush. Breath aligns with the night. The structure's presence alters the air around it. Sound travels differently here. Even silence feels more concentrated, as if gathered and held. The ground nearby feels steadier, cooler, aware of the weight it supports. Nothing about this place asks for admiration, that it does not rise to be seen, that it simply remains. The stars continue their slow passage overhead, tracing patterns that repeat without urgency. They cast light evenly, revealing and concealing in equal measure. The stone absorbs their glow, holding it briefly before releasing it back into the dark. There is comfort in this exchange. The human figures who pass nearby do not speak much. When they do, their voices stay low, instinctively respectful of the quiet. Words are unnecessary here. Understanding arrives through presence alone. Night after night, the same calm returns, the same cooling of stone, the same soft movement of air. Repetition becomes familiarity, and familiarity becomes ease. This place begins to feel inevitable, not because it dominates the land, but because it aligns with it. The angles feel measured, the weight feels balanced. Nothing leans too far into excess. The body responds to this balance instinctively. Muscles relax without instruction. Thoughts lengthen, then drift apart. The need to name or explain fades gently away. There are moments when the night feels especially still, as if holding its breath. In those moments, even the stars seem to pause, suspended in their paths. Then, slowly, everything resumes its quiet movement. The structure does not change quickly. Its growth is almost imperceptible, happening in such small increments that the night barely notices. Stone meets stone with patience. Each placement respects what is already there. The land does not resist this accumulation. It supports it, evenly distributing weight through layers shaped by time long before human presence arrived. The desert understands endurance. Wind passes along the edges of the structure, testing nothing, learning nothing new. It flows the way it always has, unconcerned with what stands in its path. The stone allows this passage without reply. There is no drama here, no tension, only the steady unfolding of existence. Nearby, the quiet routines of daily life continue. A small light flickers, then dims. Fabric shifts softly in the breeze. Footsteps fade before they can echo. Everything moves toward rest. The night deepens again, layering silence upon silence. Distance becomes less distinct. Near and far blend into the same calm field of awareness. In this softened space, the mind no longer needs to follow details. It is enough to sense the weight of stone, the openness of sky, the coolness of air against skin. Nothing demands attention. Nothing pulls forward. The structure stands not as a statement, but as a presence. It does not explain itself. It does not promise anything. It simply occupies its place within the vast quiet. This is how endurance feels, gentle, steady, without urgency. As the hours stretch, the body finds a deeper rhythm. Breathing slows, muscles release further. Thought becomes less defined, more fluid, drifting in and out of awareness. The night does not mind. It offers space for this drifting. Above it all, the stars continue their ancient paths, unchanged by what happens below. They have seen many such forms rise quietly into being. They will see them rest again in time. For now, they watch without judgment. The structure rests beneath them, complete enough for this moment. The land holds it, the night surrounds it, and you are free to rest within this same stillness, letting the rhythm of the ancient world carry you gently onward. The night does not thin. It settles more deeply, like a second layer of earth placed gently over the first. Sound grows distant, then softer still, until it feels as though it is resting rather than disappearing. The structure remains where it is, unchanged by the passing hours. This presence no longer interrupts the landscape. It has been absorbed into it. Stone and ground share the same temperature now, the same quiet patience. Moonlight moves slowly, tracing familiar paths. It lingers on edges, then drifts away, leaving no trace of having been there at all. The sky above remains open and vast, offering no direction, only depth. Human activity recedes further. The night encourages it. Movements slow, then pause. Even intention seems to soften, becoming less defined, more fluid. This place no longer feels constructed. It feels settled. The air around the structure holds a calm weight. Breathing here feels deeper, slower, as though the space itself supports the rhythm of rest. There is no need to adjust. The body aligns naturally. Time loses its outline. Moments do not follow one another clearly anymore. They blend, overlapping gently, like waves that never fully break. The mind drifts without effort, unbothered by sequence or destination. The stone remembers warmth from the day and releases it slowly, evenly, into the cool night air. This exchange happens without sound, without movement. It is steady, reliable, comforting. The land responds in kind. It holds everything without strain. Nothing sinks. Nothing shifts. Balance remains undisturbed. Wind passes again, lighter this time, almost hesitant. It moves around the structure rather than against it, respecting its place in the night. Sand stirs briefly, then settles back into stillness. Silence grows richer. In this silence, the idea of significance fades. There is no need for meaning to announce itself. The structure does not stand to be remembered. It stands because it belongs. Stars continue their slow motion above, indifferent yet present. Their light reaches the ground weakened by distance, softened by the depth of the sky. It touches stone briefly, then moves on. Everything here feels temporary and eternal at the same time. The body recognizes this paradox instinctively. It releases its remaining tension. Muscles soften further. Breath lengthens, pauses, then continues unforced and calm. Thoughts no longer form clearly. They appear briefly, like faint reflections on dark water, then dissolve before they can hold shape. Awareness spreads outward, becoming less focused, more spacious. There is no edge to this feeling, that no clear point where wakefulness ends. The night allows drifting. The structure remains steady throughout, a quiet anchor in the vastness. It does not guide or instruct. It simply offers presence. Solid, patient, unchanging. Nearby, the land stretches on uninterrupted. The horizon has disappeared into darkness. Distance has become meaningless. Only the sensation of being held within something larger remains. The desert rests fully now. Its long breath has slowed to a gentle, even rhythm. Heat and cold have reached their balance. Nothing presses for change. This calm is not fragile. It does not need protection. It exists because everything has agreed to slow down together. The stars seem farther away now, softened by the depth of the night. Their movement is barely perceptible. They offer no signal, no transition, only continuity. The structure stands beneath them, complete for this moment. It does not anticipate what comes next. It does not look back. It remains. And within this remaining, there is rest. The mind no longer needs to observe. It can settle into sensation alone. The coolness of air, the weight of stillness, the gentle absence of urgency. Nothing is required. Nothing is expected. The ancient world has slipped fully into its quiet rhythm, carrying stone, sky, and breath together in the same slow flow. You are free to drift within it, to let awareness soften and spread, to follow the night wherever it leads, or to let it lead you nowhere at all. The silence holds, the structure rests. The night continues, unbroken. Morning never truly arrives here. Light simply grows less distant. The sky eases from deep blue into softer tones, and the night releases its hold without resistance. The land does not change its posture. Stone remains still. Sand holds its shape. What has been resting continues to rest. As the light spreads, the structure becomes clearer without becoming louder. Its form emerges gently, edges revealed by contrast rather than brightness. It stands with a calm assurance, not reaching upward, not pulling attention, simply occupying space as it always has. Human presence returns slowly, not all at once. Not urgently, figures appear as silhouettes against the widening sky. They move with familiarity, as though returning to a place they never truly left. Their steps are measured, their pauses frequent. The rhythm of the day begins without interruption to the quiet. This is not a beginning. It is a continuation. Hands return to stone. The surface is cool now, holding the memory of night. Touch is deliberate, respectful. Each movement fits into a pattern learned over time, shaped by repetition rather than instruction. The structure grows not through force, but through consistency. Stone meets stone in careful alignment. Weight is shared evenly. Nothing strains. Nothing resists. The land supports this growth calmly. It has carried greater weight before, and it will again. It does not distinguish between natural rise and shaped form. It simply responds to balance. Light moves slowly across the surface, revealing subtle changes. The structure is taller now, though the change is not dramatic. It feels earned, settled, as if it has always intended to reach this height. There is no celebration in this progress, and no moment marked. Growth here is quiet. Around it, daily life unfolds in soft detail. Water moves gently in shallow channels. Fabric shifts in the air. Low voices blend into the open space, never lingering long enough to form echoes. The soundscape remains restrained, as though the world itself prefers to speak softly in this place. As the structure rises, the sky remains generous. It does not feel challenged. The openness above allows everything below to remain calm. Even height feels grounded here. Human figures pause often, not to admire, but to sense alignment. They look upward briefly, then return their attention to the ground. The balance between above and below is maintained carefully. This balance becomes a quiet form of trust. The body responds to this steadiness instinctively. Breathing follows the slow pace of movement. Muscles engage without tension. There is no rush to complete anything. Completion is not the goal. The day passes without urgency. Light shifts. Shadows lengthen, then soften. The structure accepts each change without reaction. This presence remains constant through these subtle transitions. The land adjusts as well. Temperature settles into a comfortable range. The air remains clear, unburdened by motion. Everything seems to cooperate without communication. As height increases, perspective changes gently. The horizon appears slightly altered when viewed from nearby. The sky feels closer in some moments, farther in others. These shifts are noticed, then released. Nothing here demands focus for long. The idea of scale begins to form not as dominance but as relationship. The structure relates to the sky, to the ground, to the moving light. It fits within these relationships rather than defining them. This fitting brings a sense of calm. The body recognizes it as well. There is ease in watching something grow without tension, without uncertainty. Growth becomes another steady rhythm, like breath or tide. As the light begins to soften again, the day prepares to release its hold. Movements slow naturally. Tools rest. Hands lower. Voices fade. The structure remains, holding the day quietly within its form. Evening approaches without announcement. The sky deepens. Shadows stretch. The desert prepares for rest again, just as it always has. Nothing here feels unfinished. Nothing presses forward. The structure stands taller now, but still calm. It has not changed the night's willingness to arrive. Darkness settles around it easily, accepting its presence as part of the land that as night returns. The growth of the day folds gently into memory. The structure holds what has been added without strain. The land supports it. The sky watches without comment. The ancient rhythm resumes, slow, steady, unbroken. And within this rhythm, there is space to rest. Night returns without resistance. It settles gently over what has grown, softening its outline, quieting the contrast between stone and sky. The structure does not stand apart from the darkness. It accepts it, allowing shadow to become part of its form. The desert cools again, slowly and evenly. Heat retreats into the ground, leaving the surface calm to the touch. The air steadies, carrying only the faintest movement, as if aware that sound is no longer needed. Human presence withdraws. Not suddenly, not completely. A few silhouettes remain at the edges of awareness, then fade into the night. Their departure leaves no absence. The place feels complete without them, settled into its own rhythm. Moonlight drifts across the structure, revealing its height more clearly now. It is taller than before, yet it does not feel imposing. Its proportions remain gentle, balanced, aligned with the wide openness around it. The sky remains vast. Stars appear one by one, then in clusters, filling the dark with quiet depth. Their light reaches the stone after a long journey, arriving softened, patient. It rests briefly on the surface, then moves on. Nothing here reacts. Nothing needs to. The structure holds the day within it, the careful placements, the slow movements, the moments of pause. It does not release them. It simply rests with them, allowing night to smooth their edges. Silence thickens again, layering itself over everything. Sound withdraws into distance, becoming indistinct, then irrelevant. Even the wind chooses softer paths, passing nearby without touching. The ground feels steadier now, as though the added weight has deepened its connection to what lies beneath. The land does not strain. It welcomes the pressure, distributing it calmly through layers shaped by time. This acceptance creates a deeper stillness. Breathing slows naturally in this space. There is no effort involved. The body responds to the evenness around it, matching its rhythm without awareness. Thoughts begin to lose their shape again. They stretch, then soften, no longer holding sharp edges. Attention drifts outward, becoming less focused, more open. The night encourages this drifting. The structure remains unchanged through these internal shifts. It does not reflect thought or emotion. It simply exists, steady and present, offering no signal other than continuity. Distance fades further. Near and far dissolve into the same quiet field. The horizon disappears into darkness, leaving only the sensation of space without boundary. There is comfort in this lack of definition. The stars continue their slow movement overhead, barely perceptible, their patterns familiar without being recognized. They do not hurry. They have no reason to. Below them, stone rests, ground holds, air stills. Everything has reached a point of ease. The idea of progress fades. What matters here is not how far the structure has risen, but how comfortably it rests within the night. Balance has been achieved, and balance asks for nothing more. The desert breathes again, a long, even cycle that does not change pace. Warmth and coolness meet in equilibrium. Nothing shifts abruptly. This calm is expansive. It does not belong to one place. It spreads outward, gently, touching everything without distinction. The structure is part of it, as is the land, the sky, the quiet air between. Awareness continues to soften. There is no need to follow the night as it deepens. It carries everything effortlessly. The body settles further, releasing the last traces of tension. Muscles grow heavy. Breath moves in slow, even waves. Thought becomes distant, then optional. The ancient world rests fully now, not as something finished, but as something ongoing. A steady presence that does not require attention to remain. The structure stands within this rest, held by the land, watched by the sky, surrounded by silence, and you are free to remain here as well, letting the night hold you without expectation, without direction, without end. The darkness deepens gently. The rhythm continues. Everything is allowed to rest. The night does not end. It simply shifts, becoming thinner in some places, deeper in others. Darkness and light learn to share the same space, overlapping softly without conflict. The structure remains unchanged in its posture. It has settled into its place so completely that the land no longer distinguishes it from itself. Stone and ground feel continuous, bound by weight and patience rather than design. The air moves gently around it, as if memorizing its shape. Sound does not linger here. Even footsteps dissolve quickly, absorbed by the openness of the space. Human life returns quietly, without ceremony. Figures approach slowly, their presence light and temporary. They do not gather. They do not speak much. They move as though the night is still listening. Daily actions resume, softened by repetition. Hands trace familiar surfaces. Stone is touched not to measure, but to confirm balance. Everything feels already understood. This place no longer feels like a project. It feels like a presence. The body recognizes this instinctively. Breathing deepens when standing nearby. Muscles relax without conscious permission. The calm of the space moves inward, settling beneath thought. Light grows gradually, not bright enough to disturb the mood of rest. Shadows remain long and gentle, stretching without sharp edges. The structure absorbs this light evenly, revealing its form without insisting on attention. There is no single viewpoint that defines it. From every angle, it feels steady, composed, complete enough for now. The land supports the stillness generously. It does not shift beneath weight. It does not crack or resist. It holds the way it always has with quiet reliability. Human figures pause more often than they move. They stand near the structure without touching it, as though listening for something that does not need to speak. Presence alone feels sufficient. The sound of water appears faintly somewhere nearby. It moves slowly, unhurried, following paths shaped by patience rather than force. Its rhythm blends with breath, with wind, with the steady quiet of stone. Nothing here competes. Time stretches again, losing its edges. Moments drift into one another without clear division. There is no need to remember which action came first or which will follow. The structure holds these moments gently, as if collecting them without judgment. It does not distinguish between work and rest. Everything belongs to the same calm sequence. As light shifts, warmth returns gradually to the surface of stone. The change is subtle, almost unnoticeable. Heat settles rather than spreads, maintaining balance. The body responds again, matching this evenness. Breath remains slow. Thought continues to soften. Attention widens, becoming less focused, more spacious. The world feels distant here, as though separated by layers of quiet. Concerns lose their shape before they can form fully. The mind releases them without effort. The structure stands as it always has, not as an object to be understood, but as a presence to rest beside. Its endurance is not dramatic. It is gentle, consistent, reassuring. The sky above remains open and calm. Clouds, if they pass at all, do so slowly, dissolving before they can interrupt the stillness. The vastness above feels protective rather than empty. Everything encourages slowing. The day continues without urgency, moving in long, unbroken arcs of light and shadow. No moment demands attention. No transition feels sharp. As the light begins to soften again, the rhythm of rest returns naturally. Movements slow, hands lower, voices fade. The structure remains, holding the quiet of the day within it, just as it held the night before. The ancient world settles once more into its steady flow, inviting everything around it to release effort and follow the same gentle pace. Evening returns with a familiar softness. Light withdraws slowly, leaving behind no sense of loss. The sky deepens, not into darkness all at once, but into layers of quiet color that fade gently into one another. The structure receives the evening calmly. Its surface cools again, releasing the warmth of the day in an even, patient exchange. Stone does not hurry this process. It allows night to arrive at its own pace. Human presence thins. Movements slow, then pause. The space grows quieter without feeling empty. What remains is not absence, but rest. Moonlight appears faintly at first, then steadier, spreading across the land with careful balance. It touches the structure without altering it, outlining its form softly before drifting on. Shadows deepen and lengthen, smoothing edges rather than sharpening them. Everything looks gentler now, as if seen through memory rather than sight. The air cools further, settling into stillness. Wind lowers its voice until it becomes barely perceptible. Even silence seems to slow, thickening into something that can be felt rather than heard. This is a different kind of night. Not the beginning, not the end. A pause that stretches comfortably. The structure stands quietly within it, unchanged, unbothered. It does not hold attention. It releases it. The longer one remains nearby, the less there is to notice, and the more there is to feel. The body responds to this invitation. Breathing lengthens. Muscles grow heavier, supported by the calm around them. There is no need to adjust posture or thought. Everything settles naturally. The land remains steady beneath it all. Sand rests. Stone holds. The ground does not shift or resist. It accepts the stillness fully, as though it has been waiting for it. Above, the stars return in slow succession. Their light arrives gently, weakened by distance, softened by depth. They do not dominate the sky. They simply accompany it. The structure becomes part of this night sky's reflection. It does not block the stars. It shares space with them, grounded below while they continue their quiet movement above. Time loosens again. Moments no longer announce themselves. They pass unnoticed, blending together in a continuous flow. Awareness drifts without direction, guided only by the even rhythm of breath and the surrounding calm. The mind releases its need to observe. Thoughts appear briefly, then dissolve before they can form patterns. Attention spreads outward, becoming less centered, more open. There is no effort involved in this release. It happens because nothing resists it. The structure remains an anchor, not pulling awareness toward it, but allowing everything else to soften around it. Its presence is steady enough to make movement unnecessary. The desert rests fully now. Heat and coolness meet in balance. Air grows dense with quiet. The horizon disappears again, leaving only a sense of openness without boundary. The night deepens further, but gently. It does not press or overwhelm. It supports. The ancient world returns to its most familiar state. Not activity, not silence alone, but a calm agreement between all things to slow together. The structure holds this agreement within its stone, just as the land holds it within its depth and the sky holds it within its vastness. Nothing more is needed. You are free to let awareness drift even further, to rest without direction, to follow the night wherever it leads, or to remain where you are, held by stillness. The rhythm continues quietly. Stone rests, sky watches, breath moves on its own. The night remains open and unbroken, allowing everything within it to rest. The night feels older now. Not heavier, not darker. Simply deeper, as though it has gathered many quiet moments within itself and learned how to hold them without effort. The land rests in a familiar stillness. Stone remains cool and steady. Sand lies undisturbed, its surface smooth where wind has chosen not to pass. The structure stands exactly as it did before, unchanged in posture, unchanged in intention. Yet something subtle has shifted. The silence carries more space within it. Sound feels farther away, even when it is near. Distance stretches gently, not pulling apart, but opening outward like a slow breath. Human presence returns only faintly. A few movements at the edge of awareness, then nothing more. The place no longer requires attention to continue existing. It has learned how to hold itself. This is not absence. It is independence. The structure does not wait now. It does not anticipate touch or movement. It stands in agreement with the land, content within the rhythm that has already been established. The sky above remains wide and untroubled. Its color deepens gradually, passing through tones too subtle to name. Stars appear again, not as points of focus, but as a soft texture layered across the dark. Their movement is barely perceptible, slow enough to feel still. The air cools further, settling into the space around the stone. It no longer flows with curiosity. It rests. Breathing becomes quieter, deeper, matching the evenness of everything nearby. Time loosens again, more completely now. Moments do not arrive or depart. They simply exist, overlapping gently, like layers of soft fabric laid one over another. There is no edge where one ends and another begins. The body recognizes this softness. Muscles release without instruction. Shoulders lower. Jaw relaxes. Breath finds a slower rhythm, unforced and steady. Nothing in this place asks for alertness. The structure holds its weight effortlessly. The land distributes it without strain. This balance has become familiar, trusted. No adjustment is needed. Wind does not visit tonight. Or if it does, it passes so lightly that it leaves no trace. Even the idea of movement feels distant, unnecessary. The silence thickens again, becoming almost tangible. It presses gently inward, not to confine, but to support. Within it, awareness begins to soften further, losing its sharpness. Thought becomes less linear, less defined. One sensation blends into another. Cool air, still stone, open sky. The mind no longer separates them. The ancient world feels very far away and very close at the same time. This place no longer belongs to a single moment. It feels suspended, held outside of sequence. What was built remains, not as a marker of time, but as a steady presence within it. There is no sense of rise or fall here, only continuation. The structure does not assert itself against the night. It allows darkness to move across it freely, changing its appearance without altering its essence. Shadow becomes another layer, accepted without resistance. The stars continue their quiet passage overhead. They do not illuminate purpose. They simply accompany the stillness, offering a gentle sense of continuity. Below, the land remains patient. It has learned how to hold weight, how to hold silence, how to hold rest. Awareness drifts further now, becoming less centered in thought and more spread through sensation. The boundaries of attention soften, expanding outward until they feel indistinct. There is no need to stay awake for this. The night carries everything gently, stone, sky, breath, all moving together in the same slow rhythm, and you are free to rest within it, allowing the ancient stillness to continue without your attention, without effort, without end. The night no longer feels like a moment in time. It feels like a state of being. Darkness rests evenly across the land, neither thick nor thin, simply present. Stone holds its coolness without effort. The ground remains steady, unchanged by the passing hours. Everything that needs to be held is already supported. The structure stands quietly within this balance. It no longer feels observed, even when it is seen. Its presence has settled into the background of awareness, steady enough to fade from focus while remaining completely intact. Nothing asks to be noticed. The air feels heavier with calm. Movement has become unnecessary. Even the smallest sounds feel distant, as though traveling from far away before dissolving completely. Stars remain overhead, scattered gently across the sky. Their light reaches the ground slowly, softened by distance and time. It touches stone without awakening it, then continues on its quiet path. There is no contrast here and no sharpness. Everything blends, the body responds by letting go further. Breathing becomes deeper, slower, more spacious. Muscles relax into their own weight. The sense of posture dissolves, replaced by the simple feeling of being supported. Awareness drifts outward, spreading gently, no longer anchored to thought. Sensation becomes diffuse, the coolness of air, the stillness of stone, the openness above, all merging into a single quiet field. The night does not guide this process. It allows it. The structure remains steady, unchanged by this inward softening. It does not reflect emotion or thought. It simply exists, offering continuity without engagement. The land beneath it feels ancient and reliable. It has carried weight for longer than memory. It does not question what rests upon it. It accepts and holds without condition. Time continues somewhere beyond this place, but it has little influence here. The present stretches comfortably, wide enough to contain everything that needs to exist. Thoughts appear less frequently now. When they do, they arrive without urgency and leave without resistance. They no longer connect into patterns. They dissolve on their own. Silence deepens again, but gently. It does not close in. It opens outward, creating space rather than removing it. This space is not emptied at it is full of rest. The stars seem farther away now, softened by the depth of the night. Their movement is barely noticeable. They remain as they always have, quiet witnesses to stillness. Below them, stone remains grounded. Air remains calm. The land holds everything in balance. Nothing changes, and nothing needs to. The ancient world has reached a point of complete ease. Not because something has ended, but because nothing is being pushed forward. This ease spreads naturally, touching breath, touching awareness, touching the space between thoughts. You do not need to follow it. It will carry you on its own. The night remains open, unbroken, steady enough to rest within without effort. The structure stands quietly inside it, and the world continues in this calm agreement. Everything slows together. Everything rests. The silence now feels complete. Not finished, not closed, simply whole, like a circle that has never known a break. Night rests over the land with a confidence earned through repetition. It no longer needs to settle or adjust. It is already exactly where it belongs. The air holds a steady coolness, even and calm, touching stone and ground without disturbance. The structure stands quietly within this completeness. Its presence is no longer separate from the night. It feels woven into it, as if darkness itself has learned its shape and chosen to keep it. There is no sense of waiting here and no anticipation. Everything that needed to arrive has already arrived. The land feels ancient beneath the stillness. Not old in years, but deep in patience. Layers beneath the surface hold memories of pressure, warmth, and rest. They do not surface. They do not demand recognition. They simply remain, supporting what rests above. The sky stretches wide, its depth softened by distance. Stars appear less distinct now, not because they are gone, but because awareness no longer reaches toward them. Their presence is felt rather than seen, a quiet certainty rather than a point of light. The air barely moves. When it does, it moves slowly, almost carefully, as though aware that motion is no longer required. Even the idea of wind feels distant. Human presence has fully withdrawn. Not in absence, but in release. The space does not miss it. The structure does not require it. The land continues without noticing the difference. Everything has learned how to exist without constant interaction. This is where stillness deepens into something softer. Breathing becomes slower still, not because it must, but because there is no reason to hurry. Each breath arrives gently and leaves just as gently, following a rhythm that feels older than intention. The body sinks into its own weight, fully supported. Muscles no longer hold themselves. They are held. The sense of effort dissolves, replaced by quiet ease. Thought grows distant. It no longer forms clear shapes. It drifts like faint mist, appearing briefly before thinning into nothing. Awareness spreads outward, no longer centered, no longer focused. There is no edge to this spreading. It simply continues. The structure remains steady throughout this softening. It does not anchor attention or pull awareness back. It stands as a reminder that endurance does not require effort, only balance. Stone holds its temperature evenly now. It neither warms nor cools noticeably. It has reached equilibrium with the night, a calm agreement that does not need to be renewed. The land beneath feels vast and reliable. It has learned how to carry weight without strain, how to hold silence without emptiness. Nothing presses against it. Nothing pulls away. Time feels distant here, not slowed, but irrelevant. Sequence has lost its meaning. There is no before or after that needs attention. Only this. The sky remains open above everything, its vastness no longer demanding to be observed. It simply exists, spacious enough to hold stars, darkness, and stillness together without conflict. The night deepens further, but gently, like layers of soft fabric settling into place. Each layer adds comfort rather than weight. Sound has almost completely withdrawn. What remains is not silence as absence, but silence as presence. Full, rounded, supportive. Within this presence, awareness continues to soften. It no longer seeks orientation. It does not ask where it is or where it is going. It rests. The structure feels very far away now, even while remaining exactly where it is. Its presence has merged with the background of sensation, steady enough to fade without disappearing. The ancient world feels suspended in this moment, not because it has stopped, but because it no longer needs to move. Everything that matters is already here. Breath continues, slow and even. The body remains supported. Thought dissolves into sensation. Sensation dissolves into stillness. Nothing interrupts this flow. Nothing needs to. The night holds everything gently, stone, land, sky, and the quiet awareness drifting within it. You do not need to remain awake for this. The stillness will continue on its own. The ancient rhythm carries forward without sound, without effort, without end, and you are free to rest within it, letting everything else fade as deeply as it wishes. The night remains, unbroken and generous, that it does not advance or retreat. It simply exists, holding everything within a steady calm that no longer needs adjustment. Darkness feels smooth now, like a surface worn soft by time. It settles around the land without pressing against it. Stone, ground, and air have reached a shared stillness, an understanding that movement is no longer necessary. The structure stands quietly, but its presence has thinned into something almost abstract. It is still there, solid and enduring, yet it no longer occupies attention. It has become part of the night's texture, like depth or silence. Nothing asks to be defined. The sky above feels farther away, not in distance, but in relevance. Stars remain, yet their light feels diffused, spread evenly across awareness rather than arriving as points. They are sensed more than seen, a quiet reminder of continuity rather than form. The air rests in place. There is no breeze now, no shift in temperature that asks the body to respond. Everything feels balanced, settled into an even state that does not require correction. Breathing follows this balance. Each breath flows naturally without effort or pause. In and out become less distinct, part of the same gentle motion, like waves that rise and fall without breaking. The body releases further. Weight settles downward, fully supported by what lies beneath. Muscles no longer hold tension because there is nothing left to hold against. The sense of posture fades, replaced by simple presence. Thought becomes rare. When it appears, it arrives softly and leaves without trace. There is no attachment to it, no need to follow it. Awareness drifts freely, no longer anchored to language or image. The night supports this drifting completely. The land beneath the structure feels vast and reliable, extending far beyond what can be imagined. It has carried silence before, and it will carry it again. It does not measure what rests upon it. It simply holds. The structure remains steady within this holding, unchanged by the deepening stillness. This endurance is quiet, unremarkable, and absolute. It does not need to assert itself to remain. Time has fully dissolved here. Not slowed, not paused, dissolved. There is no sequence to follow, no progression to observe. Everything exists at once within the same calm field. The sense of location fades. Near and far lose their meaning. Awareness no longer rests in one place. It spreads gently, like light diffusing through mist, touching everything without distinction. The night feels expansive rather than enclosing. It opens outward, offering space rather than removing it. Within this space, there is nothing to avoid and nothing to pursue. Silence deepens again, not by growing louder, but by becoming more complete. It holds subtle layers, the faint echo of distant air, the memory of warmth in stone, the openness of sky, all blending together. The ancient world feels present here, but not specific. It is not a place or a time. It is a state, a slow, steady rhythm that exists beneath everything else. The structure no longer feels like a creation. It feels like a condition, something that simply is. This form matters less than its steadiness. This meaning fades, leaving only presence. The body mirrors this fading. Sensations soften, boundaries dissolve. Awareness becomes spacious, unconfined, resting without effort. Breath continues, calm and regular. It no longer needs to be noticed to continue. It moves on its own, guided by the same rhythm that holds the night together. There is no signal here to remain alert, no change on the horizon, no sound approaching. Everything has settled into equilibrium. The sky remains open above, vast and untroubled. It does not demand observation. It simply exists, wide enough to hold darkness and light together without contrast. Below, the land remains patient. Stone rests, ground holds, air remains still. Nothing presses forward, nothing pulls away. The night does not it deepens into rest. Within this rest, awareness is free to drift as far as it wishes, or to remain where it is, held gently by stillness. There is no wrong direction, no need for guidance. The ancient rhythm continues quietly, carrying everything without effort. The land, the structure, the sky, and the soft awareness moving among them. You are not required to follow it will continue without you. The silence remains full and supportive. The night remains open and calm. Everything rests together unbroken, allowing sleep to arrive naturally, without invitation, without end. The night changes its tone almost imperceptibly, not by becoming darker, not by lifting away, but by opening a little more space within itself. It feels wider now, as if the quiet has learned how to stretch without breaking. The land remains still, yet something beneath the surface feels gently awake. Stone holds its rest, but the air carries a faint sense of movement, not wind, not sound, only the suggestion that the world continues even while resting. The structure stands far behind awareness now. It has not disappeared, but it no longer anchors the scene. Attention drifts beyond it, carried outward into a broader, softer landscape. Here, the night feels different. The ground is no longer dry and open, feels closer, enclosed by softness. The air carries a faint coolness mixed with something heavier, richer. Moisture rests quietly in the dark, unseen but present, changing how sound would move if sound chose to appear. Water is near. It does not announce itself. There is no splash, no current demanding attention. It exists as a calm presence, resting in low places, reflecting darkness rather than light. Its surface remains undisturbed, holding the sky gently without breaking it. The land curves inward here, creating a sense of shelter. The horizon is closer, softer, wrapped in shadow. Space feels held rather than open, inviting awareness to settle inward rather than spread outward. Breathing adjusts naturally, slower, deeper. The body responds to this enclosure with ease. Muscles soften further, releasing into the support beneath. There is a sense of being gently surrounded, not confined, but protected by the quiet. The night carries a new texture now. Sounds, if they existed, would be absorbed rather than echoed. Silence feels thicker, warmer, layered with moisture and stillness. Somewhere beyond sight, stone rises again. Not sharply, not with height, but in steps and layers. The sense of structure returns, different in form, softer in presence. It does not push upward. It spreads outward, terrace by terrace, allowing the night to rest upon it. This place feels cultivated rather than imposed, shaped slowly, patiently, in agreement with what already existed. The air carries the faint suggestion of growth. Leaves resting without movement, earth holding moisture, roots extending quietly into darkness. Nothing reaches, everything settles. Human presence is only a memory here. Not figures, not movement, just the sense that hands once guided water gently, allowing it to flow where gravity already wished it to go. Water moves slowly now, barely perceptible. It does not travel far. It circulates, rising and resting, resting and rising again. Its sound, if noticed at all, is no more than a soft hush beneath awareness. The night accepts this motion easily. It does not demand stillness. It allows slow movement as part of rest. The body responds with deeper release. There is no need to adjust posture. Everything feels supported from all sides, below by ground, above by darkness, around by quiet air. Thought continues to dissolve. When it appears, it has no urgency. It floats briefly, then merges back into sensation. Awareness spreads gently, then settles again, like water finding its level. The structure here does not dominate. It blends. Stone is softened by growth. Surfaces are cooled by shade and moisture. The distinction between what is built and what has grown fades. This place does not seek permanence through height, it seeks balance through layers. The night feels generous here, allowing space for water, stone, and stillness to coexist without tension. There is no conflict between movement and rest. Everything moves slowly enough to feel still. Time remains irrelevant. There is no sense of sequence, only the feeling of continuity, of something that has always been this way and will continue without attention. The sky above is barely visible now, filtered through layers of darkness and quiet growth. Stars are present, but distant, softened, their light diffused into the night rather than arriving clearly. The world feels closer to the ground here, more intimate, more contained. Breathing deepens further. Each inhale feels cool and calm. Each exhale releases weight gently downward. The body sinks into this rhythm without resistance. There is no need to imagine anything and no need to follow. The night carries awareness forward on its own, guiding it gently into the sheltered calm where water rests, stone settles, and growth pauses without stopping. The ancient world continues its quiet unfolding here, not through monument or height, but through patience and balance. And within this balance, rest deepens naturally, without effort, without instruction, without end. The night settles more deeply into this sheltered place. It does not press down. It gathers gently, like water finding the lowest point and choosing to rest there. The air feels fuller now, carrying a quiet richness that slows every movement. Moisture lingers softly, unseen but present, changing the way the night feels against the skin. Sound, if it existed, would dissolve almost immediately, absorbed by layers of stone, earth, and still growth. Water remains close, calm, and patient. The surface does not ripple. It reflects darkness without interruption, holding the night as carefully as the night holds it. There is no urgency in its presence. It has nowhere to go and no need to move. Stone rises around it in measured layers, each one resting comfortably upon the next. These layers do not compete for height. They spread outward, creating balance rather than dominance. The structure here feels expansive without being vast, contained without being closed. Everything belongs exactly where it is. The sense of enclosure deepens the calm. The world feels held, gathered inward, protected by shadow and stillness. Awareness follows this inward motion naturally, no longer drifting outward, but settling closer to sensation. Breathing slows again, not deliberately, Instinctively, the body responds to the shelter by releasing further. Muscles soften into their own weight. The boundary between body and ground feels less distinct, as if both are part of the same resting surface. The night encourages this merging. Leaves rest in complete stillness. Their shapes are barely visible, suggested more by texture than form. They do not move. They do not whisper. They simply exist, suspended in a pause that feels long and unbroken. Somewhere within the stone, water continues its slow, quiet cycle. It rises gently, then settles again, guided by gravity rather than force. Its movement is so subtle that it feels like stillness itself. This slow circulation becomes part of the night's rhythm, blending with breath, with the quiet cooling of stone. With the steady patience of the land, human presence feels very distant now. Not absent, but unnecessary. Whatever shaped this place has long since withdrawn, leaving only balance behind. Hands are no longer needed. The system rests on its own. The distinction between created and natural continues to fade. Stone feels grown rather than placed. Water feels invited rather than directed. Nothing resists anything else. Time dissolves even further here. There is no sense of progression or return. The moment stretches comfortably, wide enough to hold awareness without asking it to move forward. Past and future lose their meaning. Only continuity remains. The sky above is barely perceptible, filtered through layers of darkness and growth. Stars are present somewhere beyond, but their light arrives softened, diffused into the night like a memory rather than a signal. The night feels warm now, not in temperature, but in tone. It holds rather than surrounds. It supports rather than contains. Awareness continues to soften, spreading gently and then settling again, like water finding a calm surface after movement. Thoughts appear rarely, and when they do, they carry no weight. They dissolve almost immediately, absorbed by the quiet. The structure here no longer feels like an object. It feels like an environment, a condition of calm shaped by patience and repetition. It does not stand apart from the land. It participates in it. Stone, water, air, and darkness share the same slow rhythm. The body mirrors this harmony. Breathing becomes smooth and even. There is no pause that feels separate from the next breath. Inhale and exhale blend into one continuous motion. The sense of self grows lighter. Boundaries soften. Awareness no longer feels centered in one place. It spreads gently, touching stone, water, air, and shadow without distinction. Nothing interrupts the spreading. Nothing pulls it back. The night remains steady, unchanging, generous. It allows everything within it to slow together, to rest together without instruction or effort. The ancient world feels present here in a different way, not monumental, not towering, but alive in balance. Its endurance is quiet. The strength is gentle. It continues not by rising, but by settling. Water rests, stone holds, air remains still. Everything has reached a point of ease. You do not need to remain aware of this place. It will continue without attention. The rhythm that holds it is older than thought and steady enough to carry everything gently forward as awareness drifts further inward. The night remains open and calm, allowing rest to deepen naturally, without signal, without transition, without end. The night shifts again, almost without notice. Not by moving away from what has been, but by allowing something new to emerge softly from within the quiet. The sheltered space loosens its hold, opening gently. Air feels drier now, lighter, carrying less moisture but the same patience. The sense of enclosure fades into openness, not abruptly, but as a slow widening of space. Stone remains present, yet its character changes. It no longer feels layered and terraced. It rises in long, calm lines, smooth and cool, catching the night differently. The darkness rests against it evenly, without interruption. This place feels elevated. Not high in height, but lifted in stillness. The ground beneath is firm and pale, holding the memory of light even in darkness. It reflects faint glimmers of the night sky, offering a subtle brightness without shine. Every surface feels cooled, balanced, complete. The sky opens wide above. Stars return with greater clarity now, scattered across the darkness like quiet companions. Their light feels gentle and distant, arriving without urgency, touching stone and air without altering them. The night breathes slowly here. Human presence is sensed only as a distant echo. Not figures, not actions, but the awareness that people once approached this place softly, as one approaches something that does not belong to them. Voices would have been low here, movements careful. The space itself seems to encourage restraint. Stone columns rise calmly out of the ground, not crowded, not dense, leaving space between them for air and silence to pass through. They do not enclose. They invite openness. The night moves easily among them, unhindered. Moonlight drifts through these spaces, resting briefly on smooth surfaces before continuing on. Shadows form gently, long and soft, never sharp enough to disturb the calm. This place feels aligned with the sky. The air moves faintly, just enough to be felt rather than heard. It brushes against stone and then moves on, carrying nothing with it. There is no sense of weather here, only atmosphere. The body responds subtly. Breathing lifts slightly, not faster, but fuller. The chest opens gently, matching the openness above. Muscles remain relaxed, supported by the steady ground beneath. Awareness feels lighter here. Thoughts, when they appear, feel less heavy. They drift like thin clouds across a wide sky, visible for a moment before dissolving completely. There is no attachment to them, no pull to follow. The stone holds a quiet coolness. Touching it would feel calming, grounding, steady. It does not absorb warmth quickly. It remains consistent, reliable, unchanged by brief contact. The space between columns feels important, not empty, intentional. Silence gathers there, deeper and clearer than before. Sound would echo softly, but even echoes feel unnecessary. The space seems content without vibration. The land beneath these stones feels ancient and still, bearing weight evenly, without strain. It has supported many quiet nights like this one. It will support many more. Time loosens further. Moments stretch comfortably, unbroken by transition. There is no sense of arrival or departure. The night simply continues, unfolding gently without direction. The sky above remains vast, generous. Stars trace slow paths that feel almost still. Their presence reassures rather than distracts. They do not ask for attention. They offer continuity. This place does not feel like shelter. It feels like reverence. Not in sound or ritual, but in stillness. In the quiet agreement between stone, sky, and space to remain calm together. Awareness settles naturally into this agreement. There is no need to focus. The openness allows attention to rest without effort. Breathing remains slow and even. The body feels upright without tension, supported without pressure. There is a sense of balance between ground and sky, between stillness and space. The night deepens gently again, softening the contrast between stone and shadow. Moonlight fades slightly, then returns, never strong enough to disturb the calm. Everything here feels measured, nothing excessive, nothing lacking. The ancient world expresses itself here not through scale or complexity, but through proportion and patience. Each element belongs exactly where it is, and nowhere else. This belonging creates rest. The mind releases its need to interpret. Sensation becomes primary, cool air, steady ground, open sky. These impressions blend together smoothly, without edges. The space holds awareness gently, allowing it to drift upward, outward, or inward without resistance. There is no preferred direction. Silence remains complete, stone remains calm, sky remains open. The night continues its quiet presence, inviting everything within it to slow just a little more, to rest a little deeper, to release whatever effort remains. You do not need to follow this place. It exists without attention. As awareness softens further, the ancient rhythm remains steady, carrying stone and sky together in the same calm flow, and allowing rest to deepen naturally, without signal, and the openness of the night remains steady here. It does not expand further, and it does not close. It holds its balance gently, like a breath paused in comfort rather than anticipation. Stone rests beneath the sky with quiet confidence. The columns stand without tension, their weight evenly distributed, their presence calm and assured. They do not compete with the darkness around them. They allow it to pass freely, settling into shadow without resistance. Moonlight continues its slow movement, sliding along smooth surfaces, then disappearing into space. It does not linger long enough to create contrast. Everything remains softened, unified by the same quiet tone. The air feels clear and still. It carries no scent that asks to be noticed, no temperature shift that requires adjustment. It simply exists, filling the spaces between stone and sky with calm consistency. This place feels timeless, not because time has stopped, but because it has loosened its hold completely. Sequence has no meaning here. There is no sense of how long the night has lasted or how long it will continue. Only the feeling of continuity remains. The body responds instinctively. Breathing settles into an even rhythm, unbroken and unforced. Muscles remain relaxed, supported by the steady ground. There is no urge to move, no need to adjust. Awareness floats gently within this balance. Thoughts appear rarely now, and when they do, they carry no urgency. They drift across awareness lightly, like faint reflections on stone, then fade without leaving a trace. The space between the columns feels especially calm. It holds silence in a way that feels intentional, as though it was shaped not to contain sound, but to release it. Even imagined echoes dissolve quickly. The sky above remains vast and patient. Stars trace their slow paths without drawing attention. Their light reaches downward softly, touching stone and air without altering either. This quiet alignment between sky and ground creates a sense of stability that does not require explanation. It is felt rather than understood. The ancient world feels present here in a restrained way, not through stories or events, but through proportion, spacing, and restraint. Everything feels measured, balanced, and complete enough to rest. The land beneath the stone feels cool and reliable. It has held weight for longer than memory. It does not distinguish between what is shaped and what is natural. It simply supports. The night continues without interruption. There is no distant sound approaching, no change in the air, no shift in light that signals transition. Everything remains steady, inviting awareness to soften even further. The sense of self begins to feel lighter. Boundaries blur gently. Awareness no longer feels centered in one place. It spreads softly, touching stone, sky, and space without distinction. This spreading does not feel like movement. It feels like release. Breathing becomes deeper, slower, almost imperceptible. Inhale and exhale blend into one continuous flow. There is no pause that feels separate from the next breath. The body rests fully within this rhythm. There is no effort involved in maintaining posture or awareness. Everything is held naturally. The stone columns remain unchanged through this deepening calm. They do not respond to attention or inattention. They simply remain, offering steadiness without demand. The sky feels slightly darker now, not because light has faded, but because awareness has softened. Stars remain present, but their edges blur, blending into the depth of the night. Silence deepens again, becoming richer rather than emptier. It holds subtle layers, the stillness of air, the coolness of stone, the openness of space, all existing together without conflict. Time feels completely irrelevant now. There is no sense of progress, no awareness of duration. The night exists as a single, extended moment, wide enough to contain everything that needs to rest. The ancient rhythm continues beneath awareness, steady and unbroken. It does not require attention to persist. It carries stone, sky, and silence together effortlessly. The body mirrors this effortlessness. Muscles remain heavy and relaxed. Breath moves slowly and evenly. Thought dissolves almost as soon as it appears. There is nothing to observe, nothing to interpret, only the feeling of being supported within a vast, balanced calm. The place does not ask to be remembered. It does not seek meaning. It exists fully without either. Awareness continues to drift inward, outward, and nowhere in particular. Direction no longer matters. The night holds everything equally. Stone rests. Sky remains open. Silence supports. The ancient world remains present in this quiet alignment, not as a collection of forms, but as a state of balance that continues without effort. You are free to remain here without attention, without thought, without movement. The rhythm will continue whether you notice it or not. The night remains calm and open, allowing rest to deepen naturally, gently, endlessly, as awareness softens and drifts wherever it wishes. The night carries itself differently now. Not lighter, not heavier, simply more settled, as if it has found a depth where nothing needs to change anymore. The open space of stone and sky begins to soften at the edges. Columns fade gently into shadow, no longer standing apart, no longer defining space. What remains is the feeling they created: balance, order, quiet restraint. The land beneath feels broader again, not enclosed, not elevated, but wide and patient. The ground stretches outward calmly, its surface smooth and cool, shaped by time rather than intention. Air moves slowly here, carrying a dry stillness that feels clean and undisturbed. It does not press against the skin. It rests around it, allowing the body to relax further into its own weight. The sky remains present, but less distant now. It feels closer, as if lowering gently toward the land. Stars soften, their sharpness dissolving into the dark. They remain, but no longer define the night. This place feels guided by proportion. Nothing overwhelms. Nothing disappears. Stone appears again, not rising dramatically, not layered in terraces, but shaped with calm symmetry. Its surfaces are smooth, pale, and quiet, reflecting the faintest suggestion of moonlight without brightness. The structure here feels grounded and composed. It does not stretch upward toward the sky. It aligns with the horizon, resting within the land rather than above it. Human presence feels faintly nearer again, not as figures, not as sound, but as the sense that this place once held quiet gatherings, slow footsteps, moments of pause rather than movement. Voices, if they were here, would have been soft. The night accepts this memory without awakening it. Stone steps lie gently against the ground, not inviting ascent, not demanding descent. They simply exist, offering rhythm rather than direction. Their repetition feels calming, predictable, steady. The air around them feels still, as if movement chose to rest here. Sound would not travel far. It would settle quickly, absorbed by stone and open space. The body responds with deeper ease. Breathing remains slow and even. The chest rises gently, then settles again without effort. Muscles remain relaxed, supported by the steady ground. Awareness feels balanced here, not drawn upward, not pulled inward. It rests comfortably in the middle, held by proportion and calm. Thoughts continue to appear less frequently. When they do, they feel distant and light, like faint impressions rather than formed ideas. They drift through awareness without leaving marks. The night remains steady. Moonlight slides across stone surfaces, revealing gentle curves and clean lines. Shadows form softly, never sharp, never dramatic. Everything remains within a narrow range of contrast that encourages rest. This place does not demand reverence, that it invites quiet presence. The land beneath the stone feels reliable and cool. It has carried many nights like this one. It will carry many more. It does not distinguish between those who pass and those who remain. Time loosens again, perhaps more completely than before. Moments stretch without division. There is no sense of how long awareness has rested here, and no concern about how long it will continue. The night does not keep count. The sky darkens slightly, or perhaps awareness softens further. The difference no longer matters. Stars remain present somewhere above, but they no longer pull attention upward. Silence becomes fuller, richer. It holds subtle layers, the stillness of air, the steadiness of stone, the openness of land, all blending into one continuous calm. The ancient world feels present here not through memory, but through alignment. Everything feels placed correctly, resting where it belongs. The structure does not assert meaning. It does not explain itself. It exists as a result of patience and balance rather than intention. The body mirrors this existence. There is no need to hold posture or thought. Everything settles naturally into place. Breathing continues, slow and unforced. Each breath feels complete without needing to be noticed. Inhale and exhale merge into one gentle motion. Awareness begins to feel less separate from the surroundings. The boundary between inner and outer softens, blurring gently. Sensation spreads evenly, without focus. Nothing interrupts this spreading. Nothing calls it back. The night holds everything in this quiet agreement: stone, land, air, and the soft awareness drifting among them. You do not need to remain attentive. This place does not require observation. The ancient rhythm continues quietly beneath everything, steady and unbroken, carrying balance forward without effort as awareness softens further. Rest deepens naturally, without signal or transition, allowing sleep to arrive gently, exactly when it wishes. The night does not shift anymore, that it settles into itself, as if it has reached a depth where movement is unnecessary and change would only disturb what has already found balance. Stone remains cool beneath the dark, holding its shape without effort. The ground feels wide and even, stretching outward without interruption. Nothing rises sharply here. Nothing sinks away. Everything rests on the same gentle level. The structure remains present, but its outline softens further. It no longer stands as an object within the space. It feels like a continuation of the land itself, shaped yet not separate. This calm symmetry no longer draws attention. It releases it. The air remains still, carrying a quiet clarity. Breathing feels effortless here, as though the air itself supports the rhythm. Each breath arrives slowly, fills gently, and leaves without trace. Awareness begins to float more freely. Thought has almost completely withdrawn. What remains is sensation without interpretation. The coolness of stone, the openness of land, the steady weight of stillness. These sensations do not compete. They blend. The night feels generous now. Not expansive, not enclosing, simply sufficient. Moonlight is faint, barely distinguishable from darkness. It touches surfaces without revealing detail, offering only the suggestion of form. Shadows soften further, losing their edges entirely. The sky feels present but distant, like a vast ceiling that no longer needs to be seen to be known. Stars continue their slow movement far above, but their presence feels abstract, almost symbolic rather than visual. Time dissolves completely here. There is no awareness of duration, no sense of how long the night has held this place, no anticipation of what comes next. Everything exists within a single, extended moment that does not require attention. The body settles deeper into rest. Muscles grow heavier, fully supported. The sense of posture fades. The boundary between body and ground softens, becoming less distinct, more cooperative. Breathing remains slow and even. There is no pause that feels separate from the next breath. Inhale and exhale blend together, guided by the same quiet rhythm that holds the night itself. The structure remains unchanged, but its meaning fades further. It no longer represents anything. It does not point toward purpose or memory. It exists only as presence. Steady, patient, complete enough. The land beneath it feels ancient and calm. It has carried countless moments like this one, and it carries them all without distinction. It does not remember. It does not forget. It simply holds. Silence deepens again, but not by becoming louder. It becomes more complete, rounding itself gently around awareness. There is no empty space within it. It feels full, supportive, reassuring. Awareness continues to soften. There is no longer a clear center. Attention spreads outward evenly, touching everything lightly and nothing specifically. Direction loses meaning. Near and far dissolve into the same quiet field. The night encourages this dissolution without guiding it. There is no instruction, no signal. The release happens naturally because nothing resists it. Stone rests. Air remains still. Land holds. Everything has reached equilibrium. The ancient world feels present here in its most distilled form, not as a place, not as a time, but as a rhythm. A slow, steady agreement between all things to exist without urgency. This rhythm does not need to be followed. It carries everything automatically. Breathing continues on its own. Awareness drifts without intention. Thought no longer forms clearly enough to interrupt the calm. The sky remains open above, unseen but felt. Its vastness does not pull attention upward. It simply exists, spacious enough to hold darkness and light together without contrast. Below, the ground remains steady and cool. It supports without pressure, holds without effort. Nothing moves forward. Nothing falls away. The night does not end here. It does not need to. It remains exactly as it is. Calm, balanced, complete, allowing rest to deepen naturally, without transition, without conclusion. You do not need to stay aware of this place. It will continue without attention, without memory, without effort. The ancient rhythm flows quietly beneath everything, steady and unbroken, carrying stone, land, sky, and breath together in the same gentle motion. As awareness softens further, there is nothing left to do, nothing left to notice, only rest remains. The night continues without announcing itself. It does not arrive or depart. It simply remains, steady and patient, allowing awareness to drift gently within it. The broad, level land begins to soften again, not by changing shape, but by shifting texture. The ground feels warmer here, carrying a quiet density beneath its surface. Stone remains present, yet it is darker now, deeper in tone, absorbing what little light reaches it. The air feels heavier, slower. It does not move freely across wide space. It settles low, close to the ground, carrying a sense of depth rather than openness. Breathing adjusts subtly, becoming deeper, more grounded. This place feels inward. Not confined, not narrow. Simply focused, stone rises again, not in smooth symmetry, not in open lines, but in solid mass. Surfaces are broad and uninterrupted. Edges are softened by shadow. The structure feels ancient and weight-bearing, designed to hold rather than to invite. The night rests easily against it. Darkness gathers in the spaces between stone, filling them completely. There are no sharp contrasts here. Light does not travel far. It rests briefly, then fades into shadow. The land beneath feels steady and enduring. It has supported great weight for a very long time. It does not respond to pressure. It receives it. Human presence feels distant but purposeful here, not through movement or sound, but through intention embedded in the stone itself. This place feels shaped for continuity, for permanence rather than moment. Voices would not have lingered here. They would have been absorbed quickly. The body responds with a deeper sense of grounding. Muscles soften further, releasing downward into support. There is a subtle sense of heaviness, not uncomfortable but reassuring. The feeling of being held firmly by something solid and reliable. Breathing slows again, settling into a deeper rhythm. Each inhale feels full and calm. Each exhale releases weight gently downward. Awareness follows this downward motion. Thought becomes less frequent, less defined. Ideas no longer form clearly enough to hold attention. What remains is sensation, weight, stillness, warmth, depth. The structure here does not reveal itself easily. The scale is felt rather than seen. Walls rise beyond sight, not towering, but enclosing in a way that feels intentional and steady. The night accepts this enclosure fully. The air feels cooler near the stone, warmer near the ground. These subtle differences create a layered stillness, a quiet depth that feels stable and complete. Time loosens again, perhaps more deeply than before. Moments stretch without edges. There is no sense of beginning or end. The night feels continuous, unbroken by transition. The sky above is no longer visible, not because it is absent, but because it is unnecessary. The focus has shifted downward, inward, toward the steadiness beneath. Stars continue somewhere beyond awareness, but their presence is abstract, distant, irrelevant. The ancient world feels very close here. Not as history, not as memory, but as endurance. Stone carries the weight of countless nights without strain. It does not react. It remains. Silence deepens, becoming dense rather than wide. It presses gently inward, encouraging awareness to settle closer to sensation, closer to rest. The body responds instinctively. There is no need to adjust position. Everything feels supported exactly as it is. Muscles remain relaxed, heavy, secure. Breathing continues steadily, guided by the same rhythm that holds the stone in place. There is no separation between breath and stillness. They coexist easily. Awareness begins to blur at the edges. Focus softens. There is no longer a clear center of attention. Sensation spreads evenly, then settles again. The structure no longer feels like an object. It feels like a condition, a state of solidity and calm that surrounds everything within it. This place does not invite movement, it invites rest. The night responds by becoming even quieter. Any imagined sound would be muted immediately. Echo does not exist here. Everything is absorbed. The land beneath feels ancient and patient. It does not shift or respond. It simply holds. The air remains still, heavy with calm. There is no need to imagine more detail. There is no need to follow the space that exists fully without observation. Awareness continues to soften, sinking gently into the steady rhythm beneath everything. Thought dissolves further, becoming indistinct, then fading entirely. The ancient world remains present here not through form, but through mass, endurance, and quiet strength. Stone rests. Land holds. Silence deepens. The night remains exactly as it needs to be, allowing rest to continue naturally, without interruption, without effort, without end. The stillness grows denser without becoming heavy, and it gathers gently, like warmth settling into stone after a long, quiet day, filling every space without pressing or demanding. The massive structure remains unchanged, its presence steady and calm. Broad surfaces absorb darkness completely, holding it without reflection. There is no sharp edge here, no line that pulls attention. Everything is softened by time, by shadow, by patience. The air rests low and unmoving. It does not circulate. It settles, creating layers of calm that remain undisturbed. Breathing adjusts again, growing slower, deeper, almost imperceptible. Each breath feels anchored. The body sinks further into its support, as if gravity has become gentler but more certain. Muscles release the last traces of tension, not suddenly, but gradually, one subtle letting go after another. Awareness follows this descent naturally. Thought has almost entirely dissolved. What remains is not emptiness, but simplicity, a quiet awareness of weight, warmth, and stillness. Sensation exists without interpretation. There is no urge to name or understand it. Stone surrounds this calm like a quiet guardian. It does not enclose tightly. It offers protection through mass and endurance rather than closeness. The feeling is one of stability, not confinement. The night feels very old here. Not ancient in a way that suggests memory or history, but ancient in the sense of something that has always been this way. A stillness that existed long before attention ever arrived. The structure carries this stillness effortlessly. It does not resist the night. It receives it fully, allowing darkness to rest against its surfaces without interruption. The ground beneath feels dense and cool, holding everything above it without movement. It does not shift. It does not settle. It simply remains, reliable and constant. Time continues to lose meaning. Moments no longer follow one another. They overlap softly, blending into a single, continuous presence. There is no sense of waiting, no awareness of passage, only the feeling of being held within an extended pause. The air feels slightly warmer now, or perhaps awareness has softened further. The distinction no longer matters. Temperature, like time, becomes secondary. Silence grows richer. It is no longer the absence of sound, but a complete state, a fullness that wraps gently around awareness, leaving no space for interruption. Imagine sounds fade before they form. The body responds instinctively. Breathing becomes so smooth that it feels almost still. Inhale and exhale flow into each other without separation, guided by the same quiet rhythm that holds stone and ground in balance. There is no effort involved in resting here. Awareness spreads softly, touching stone, air, and ground without distinction. The sense of self becomes lighter, less defined. Boundaries blur gently, without resistance. The structure no longer feels separate from the land. It feels grown from it, shaped slowly by agreement rather than force. Stone and ground share the same weight, the same patience. The night deepens further, but without darkening. It becomes more complete, more settled, as if it has finished unfolding and chosen to remain exactly as it is. The sky feels very distant now, almost irrelevant. Stars continue their quiet movement far above, but their presence is no longer felt directly. They exist beyond awareness, unnecessary to this moment. Everything needed for rest is already here. The ancient world expresses itself here not through height or complexity, but through endurance, through the quiet confidence of things that do not need to change in order to continue. Stone holds, ground supports, air rests. Awareness drifts further inward, no longer drawn by form or space. Sensation becomes softer, less distinct. The edges of perception blur, blending into a gentle haze. There is no need to follow this drift. It happens on its own. Breathing continues quietly, guided by a rhythm older than thought. Muscles remain heavy and relaxed. The sense of posture disappears completely. The structure remains unchanged, patient, and unmoving. It does not respond to attention or inattention. It simply exists, steady and complete. Silence remains full and uninterrupted. There is no signal of transition, and no indication of what comes next. The night does not ask awareness to stay awake or to sleep. It allows either without preference that as awareness softens further. The ancient rhythm continues beneath everything, unbroken and effortless. It carries stone, ground, air, and breath together in the same gentle motion. Nothing needs to be remembered. Nothing needs to be released. The night remains calm and enduring, allowing rest to deepen naturally, quietly, endlessly, until awareness drifts wherever it wishes, held safely within the same steady stillness. The night opens again, quietly, without breaking the stillness it has carefully built. That it does not pull awareness upward or outward. Instead, it allows space to widen gently around what is already at rest. The dense calm of stone and ground begins to soften, not by losing weight, but by gaining breath. The air feels lighter here, cooler, moving just enough to be felt as a subtle presence rather than a force. Stillness remains, but it is no longer heavy. It becomes expansive. The land stretches outward once more. The ground beneath feels firm and dry, carrying a quiet warmth stored from an earlier sun. Stone appears scattered rather than massive now, arranged in deliberate order, each piece resting precisely where it belongs. Nothing presses inward. Nothing encloses. This place feels open and intentional. The night sky becomes visible again, wide and patient. Stars return clearly, suspended in deep darkness, their light arriving gently and without urgency. They do not demand attention. They simply exist, steady and reassuring. The air carries a faint coolness that encourages slow, even breathing. Each inhale feels clean and calm. Each exhale releases weight naturally, without effort. Awareness responds by lifting slightly, not becoming alert, not focusing, simply floating a little higher within the same calm rhythm. The body remains relaxed, heavy where it rests, yet the mind feels unburdened, spacious. Stone forms lines and angles here, clean and precise. Surfaces feel smooth and carefully aligned. There is a sense of order that does not restrict, but supports. The structure does not rise dramatically. It spreads outward, defining space gently rather than dominating it. This place feels measured, balanced, clear. Human presence is sensed faintly again, not as activity, but as quiet intention. This space feels designed for observation rather than action, for stillness rather than movement. Footsteps would have been slow here, voices low. The night holds this memory without awakening it. Moonlight moves calmly across stone, tracing edges without sharpness. Shadows form clean lines, but remain soft, never heavy. Light and dark coexist easily, without conflict. The body mirrors this balance. Breathing remains steady and smooth. Muscles stay relaxed, supported by the ground beneath. There is no urge to move or adjust. Awareness settles into clarity without tension. Thoughts appear occasionally, but they feel transparent, easy to see through. They pass without weight, without the need to follow or resolve them. The air continues its subtle movement, enough to keep the space feeling alive, but never enough to disturb the calm. It flows around stone and across open ground with quiet ease. Time feels gentle here, not dissolved completely, but slowed to the point where it no longer presses forward. Moments feel wide, comfortable, unhurried. There is no sense of anticipation or conclusion. The sky remains vast above, its depth encouraging perspective rather than thought. Stars trace their slow paths, barely changing, offering continuity rather than distraction. The ancient world feels present here through precision rather than mass, through alignment, proportion, and quiet clarity. Everything feels placed with care, yet allowed to rest on its own. Stone does not strain upward. Land does not pull inward. Sky does not press down. Everything exists in agreement. Awareness spreads gently across this agreement, touching space, stone, and air without preference. There is no center to focus on. Attention drifts freely, then settles again. Breathing deepens slightly, finding a rhythm that feels both grounded and open. Each breath completes itself fully, without pause or effort. The body feels supported not just by the ground, but by the space itself, as if the openness holds as gently as solidity once did. Silence remains complete, but it is no longer dense. Feels clean, clear, and spacious. Imagine sounds would travel briefly here, then fade softly without echo. The structure no longer feels like a destination. It feels like a frame for stillness, a way of holding space without filling it. The night continues without change. There is no shift in temperature, no movement of wind, no signal of transition. Everything remains steady, allowing awareness to rest within this clarity as long as it wishes. The ancient rhythm flows quietly beneath it all, steady and unbroken. It does not pull awareness forward. It does not let it fall back. It simply carries everything evenly. Thought continues to soften, sensation becomes primary again. The coolness of air, the steadiness of ground, the openness of sky. These impressions blend together smoothly, without edges. There is nothing to solve, nothing to remember, nothing to anticipate. The night holds this place in quiet balance, allowing rest to deepen not through heaviness, but through ease. Awareness drifts gently within this open calm, free to settle wherever it feels most comfortable, knowing that nothing here will change abruptly, and nothing needs to be followed. Stone remains aligned. Sky remains wide. Air moves softly. The ancient world continues. Its quiet presence, offering clarity without demand, balance without effort, and a calm spaciousness that allows rest to unfold naturally, slowly, and without end. The openness remains steady, unbroken by change. It does not expand further, and it does not close. It simply holds, wide enough for awareness to rest without drifting too far in any direction. The air continues its gentle movement, barely noticeable, like a slow breath shared by the land itself. It passes over stone and open ground with equal ease, never lingering long enough to draw attention, never disappearing completely. The ground beneath feels firm and reassuring. Its warmth is subtle now, stored deep within, offering quiet comfort rather than sensation. The body responds instinctively, sinking into support without effort. Stone remains precisely where it is, each surface calm and composed. Lines stay clean, angles remain balanced. Nothing shifts, nothing settles further. Everything has already found its place. The night sky continues to stretch above, vast and patient. Stars remain scattered gently across it, their light softened by distance and darkness. They do not sparkle or shimmer. They simply exist, constant and slow. Awareness drifts lightly between sky and ground, not moving from one to the other, but resting in the space that connects them. The sense of height and depth dissolves into a single, unified calm. Breathing stays slow and even. Each inhale feels complete. Each exhale releases gently, without intention. There is no pause that asks for attention. Breath flows on its own. The body feels balanced here, neither heavy nor light, neither tense nor loose. Muscles remain relaxed, supported by the ground and the quiet air around them. There is no urge to move. Thoughts grow increasingly faint. When they appear, they feel distant, almost transparent, like reflections that never fully form. They pass through awareness without leaving any trace behind. The structure continues to frame the space gently. It does not command attention. It does not ask to be understood. It simply holds the openness in place, allowing stillness to exist without collapsing inward. Human presence feels almost entirely absent now, not erased but unnecessary. Whatever intention once shaped this place has dissolved into balance, leaving no trace of effort behind. The night accepts this absence fully. Silence becomes clearer here. Not louder, not deeper, simply cleaner. It contains no interruption, no expectation. Imagined sounds fade before they can take shape. Time slows even further, approaching stillness. Moments no longer feel sequential. They overlap softly, blending into one extended pause. There is no sense of how long awareness has rested here, and no interest in knowing. The sky feels slightly darker now, or perhaps awareness has softened further. The difference no longer matters. Stars remain present, but their edges blur gently, blending into the night. The air feels cooler with each slow breath, refreshing rather than stimulating. It carries calm into the body without effort, encouraging deeper relaxation naturally. Awareness begins to feel less defined. There is no clear boundary between inner and outer. Sensation spreads evenly, touching stone, air, and space with equal softness. Direction loses meaning. Near and far feel the same. The structure no longer feels separate from the night. It feels like part of the same quiet system, stone holding space, space holding air, air holding awareness. Everything supports everything else. The ancient world feels present here not as a place, but as a principle, the idea that balance, once found, does not need to be maintained through effort. It sustains itself quietly. Breathing continues on its own. The body rests fully within this rhythm. There is no need to check posture, no need to adjust. Gravity feels gentle and reliable, holding without pulling. Silence remains complete and unbroken. The night does not signal transition. It does not guide awareness towards sleep or wakefulness. It allows both equally without preference. Thought dissolves almost entirely now. What remains is a soft awareness of being supported, surrounded, and safe within stillness. Stone remains aligned. Ground remains steady. Sky remains wide. Nothing changes, and nothing needs to. The ancient rhythm continues beneath everything, steady and unbroken, carrying space, air, and breath together in the same gentle flow. Awareness drifts wherever it wishes, inward, outward, or nowhere at all. There is no need to follow it, and no need to hold it in place. The night remains exactly as it is, calm and balanced, allowing rest to deepen naturally, quietly, endlessly, until awareness fades into the same steady stillness that holds the ancient world itself. The night changes again, but only in feeling, not in form. It becomes warmer, quieter in a different way, as if the darkness itself has learned how to hold heat without becoming heavy. The open clarity of stone and sky softens into something more intimate. Space does not close, yet it feels closer, nearer to the senses. The air carries a faint warmth now, dry and calm, resting gently against the skin. The land beneath feels expansive and level, stretching outward without interruption. Sand or fine earth covers the ground, smooth and even, shaped by time and patience rather than movement. Each grain rests quietly, undisturbed. Stone rises again, but not sharply. It forms broad, solid shapes, heavy and grounded. with surfaces that absorb the night rather than reflect it. These stones feel ancient in a way that is calm and reassuring, not distant. This place feels enduring. The sky above remains vast, but its stars appear softer here, filtered through the warmth of the night air. Their light feels muted, as if it has traveled a long distance before arriving, carrying no urgency with it. Breathing adjusts naturally, becoming slow and deep. The warmth in the air encourages longer exhales, releasing the body further into rest. Muscles soften without instruction. Awareness settles lower, closer to the body, closer to the ground. The structure here feels massive, but not overwhelming. Its presence is steady and protective, offering a sense of stability rather than enclosure. Walls rise calmly, thick and enduring, their edges softened by darkness. The night rests easily against them. Human presence is felt faintly, not as activity or sound, but as intention embedded in the stone. This place feels shaped for continuity, to last, to endure, to remain steady through countless nights like this one. Voices would have been quiet here, movements slow. The silence absorbs everything. The air feels still, carrying warmth evenly. There is no breeze, no shift in temperature. Everything remains consistent, encouraging awareness to stop monitoring and simply rest. Time loosens again, stretching comfortably. There is no sense of anticipation, no awareness of sequence. Moments blend into one another smoothly, without edges or boundaries. The body responds by growing heavier. Limbs relax fully, releasing the last traces of tension. The sense of posture fades, replaced by a feeling of being gently held by the ground itself. Breathing remains slow and steady. Each breath feels complete, needing no attention. Inhale and exhale flow together naturally, guided by the same rhythm that holds the night. The structure's mass creates a quiet sense of protection. It does not press inward. It shelters through presence alone, allowing awareness to settle without concern. The sky remains present but distant. Stars continue their slow movement far above, but they no longer draw attention upward. Their presence feels symbolic rather than visual. The ancient world feels very close here. Not as memory, not as story, but as continuity. Stone and land feel unchanged by time, holding their form patiently without effort. Silence deepens again, becoming warm and full rather than empty. It wraps gently around awareness, leaving no space for interruption. Thought becomes increasingly rare. When it appears, it feels soft and distant, dissolving before it can fully form. There is no desire to follow it, no need to engage. Awareness begins to blur gently at the edges. Sensation spreads evenly, touching ground, air, and stone without distinction. Direction loses meaning. The night encourages this softening without guiding it. The structure no longer feels separate from the land. It feels grown from it, sharing the same weight, the same warmth, the same endurance. Everything belongs together here. The body mirrors this sense of belonging. There is no tension left to release. Muscles remain relaxed and heavy. Breath continues quietly on its own. The warmth of the night feels comforting, steady, reliable. It does not fluctuate. It does not ask for attention. Time feels almost irrelevant now. Moments no longer feel like moments. They stretch into a continuous presence, wide enough to hold awareness without movement. The ancient rhythm beneath everything remains steady and unbroken. It does not speed up or slow down. It simply continues, carrying stone, land, air, and breath together. There is no need to imagine more detail, and no need to explore further. This place does not change when attention rests on it or drifts away from it. It remains exactly as it is, calm and enduring. Awareness continues to soften, sinking gently into the warmth and stillness. Boundaries fade. Sensation becomes less distinct, more unified. Stone holds, land rests. Air remains warm and still. The night offers this quiet endurance without demand, allowing rest to deepen naturally, steadily, and without end, as awareness drifts further into the same ancient calm that has always been here. The warmth of the night remains steady, unchanged, as if it has settled into the land and decided to stay. It does not fade or intensify. It simply exists, gentle and constant, allowing everything within it to relax without question. The broad stone surfaces continue to absorb the darkness, holding it quietly. Their mass feels reassuring rather than imposing, offering stability through presence alone. There is no need to measure their size. Their endurance is felt, not calculated. The ground beneath remains smooth and even. Fine grains of earth or sand rest together without movement, each one supported by the others. Nothing shifts, nothing settles further. Everything has already found equilibrium. The air feels still and warm, carrying calm evenly in all directions. Breathing flows naturally within it, slow and deep, guided by comfort rather than effort. Each breath feels anchored, grounded, complete. Awareness continues to sink, not downward in space, but inward into sensation. The edges of perception soften further, losing their sharpness. Sensation blends into sensation, warmth into stillness, weight into support. The structure surrounding this space feels timeless now. It no longer suggests construction or intention. It simply exists, as though it has always been part of the land, rising slowly over ages rather than being placed. The night accepts this permanence easily. Human presence fades almost entirely. Whatever purpose once guided this place has dissolved into quiet balance. There is no trace of urgency left behind, no echo of voices or footsteps. Only endurance remains. Silence feels complete. It does not invite listening. It surrounds awareness gently, removing the need to notice anything at all. Imagined sounds dissolve before they can form, absorbed by warmth and mass. The body responds by becoming heavier, more relaxed. Muscles rest fully, no longer holding shape or position. The sense of form softens, as if the body itself is becoming part of the ground it rests upon. Breathing becomes so smooth that it nearly disappears from awareness. Inhale and exhale blend into a single, continuous motion, guided by the same quiet rhythm that holds the night steady. Time loosens further, almost completely. There is no sense of duration, no awareness of how long awareness has been here, no anticipation of what comes next. The present moment stretches gently, wide enough to contain everything without movement. The sky remains distant, barely felt. Stars continue their slow paths far above, but their presence feels abstract, irrelevant to this deep calm. They exist, but they do not call attention upward. Everything necessary is already here. Stone remains warm and still. Land remains steady and supportive. Air remains calm and unmoving. Awareness floats softly within this balance, no longer drawn to any single sensation. There is no center to focus on, no edge to define. Everything feels evenly present. Thought dissolves almost entirely now. When it appears, it has no structure, no words, no direction. It fades immediately, leaving behind only softness. There is no effort required to release it. The structure no longer frames the space. It becomes the space. Stone, air, and ground merge into a single condition of calm endurance. The night deepens, not by darkening, but by completing itself. It feels whole, settled, finished in the most peaceful way. The ancient world expresses itself here through warmth and mass, through the quiet confidence of things that do not need to change to continue. This endurance is gentle, not rigid. It allows rest rather than demanding attention. Awareness mirrors this endurance by letting go. There is no longer a clear sense of self separate from the surroundings. Boundaries blur completely, dissolving into warmth and stillness. Near and far feel the same. Inside and outside lose distinction. Breathing continues quietly, automatically. The body remains supported, heavy, at ease. There is no impulse to move or adjust. Silence remains unbroken. The night does not signal sleep or wakefulness. It does not guide awareness in any direction. It simply allows whatever happens to happen without interference. Stone continues to hold its warmth. Land continues to support without pressure. Air continues to rest quietly around everything. Nothing changes, and nothing needs to. The ancient rhythm beneath it all remains steady and unbroken, carrying breath, stillness, and warmth together in the same gentle flow. It does not hurry. It does not pause. It simply continues. Awareness drifts further into this flow, becoming softer, quieter, less defined. There is no need to remain attentive. The rhythm carries everything effortlessly. You do not need to remember this place. You do not need to stay aware of it. It will continue without observation, just as it always has. The night remains calm and enduring, offering warmth, stillness, and quiet support, allowing rest to deepen naturally, slowly, endlessly, until awareness fades gently into the same ancient calm that holds stone, land, and sky together without effort. The night cools again, gently, without removing the warmth it has gathered. It does not shift suddenly. It transitions slowly, like stone releasing heat after sunset, allowing balance to return naturally. The air feels clearer now, lighter against the skin. Warmth remains beneath it, steady and reassuring, but the surface of the night carries a faint coolness that refreshes rather than wakes. Breathing responds instinctively, becoming smooth and even. The land begins to change in texture. The ground feels firmer here, more defined, as if layers beneath have been carefully arranged over time. Stone appears again, not massive and enclosing, but structured and deliberate, rising in gentle steps rather than walls. This place feels elevated once more. Not high above the world, but slightly lifted, as though the land itself has chosen to rise calmly toward the sky. The horizon opens, darkness stretches outward, wide and uninterrupted. The sky above feels vast again, deep and calm, with stars returning in quiet clarity. Their light feels cooler now, softer, arriving without urgency or pull. Awareness lifts subtly with this openness, not becoming alert, simply feeling less contained. The body remains relaxed and heavy where it rests, but the mind feels spacious, unburdened by enclosure or weight. Stone surfaces here are cooler to the touch, smooth and balanced. They catch faint moonlight and release it gently, creating soft gradients rather than contrast. Shadows form calmly, resting rather than hiding. The structure spreads outward in careful alignment. It does not dominate the land. It follows it, adapting to its curves and slopes with patience. Human presence is sensed again, but lightly, not through action or sound, but through alignment and intention. This place feels shaped to observe the sky, to exist in conversation with space rather than within it. Silence feels wide here. Not dense, not heavy, expansive and clear. Sound would travel farther, but it would still arrive softly, losing strength as it moves. The body responds with a subtle lightness. Breathing feels open in the chest, unforced and easy. Muscles remain relaxed, supported by the steady ground beneath. Awareness drifts upward briefly, touching the sky, then settles again. Thought remains faint and distant. When it appears, it has no urgency, no direction. Passes gently, like a cloud dissolving into night. There is no need to follow or resist it. The land beneath the stone feels ancient and patient. It has risen and settled many times over long spans of time, never hurried, never strained. It holds everything evenly. Time loosens again. Moments feel long and comfortable, unbroken by change. There is no sense of arrival or departure. The night feels continuous, flowing gently without edges. The sky grows slightly darker, or perhaps awareness softens further. Stars remain visible, but their sharpness fades, blending into the depth above. The structure here does not enclose or protect .it frames. .it offers orientation without direction, stability without containment. It allows awareness to rest while remaining open to space. The ancient world feels present here through observation rather than endurance, through openness rather than mass. This place does not seek to last by resisting change, but by aligning with it. Stone, sky, and land move together slowly. The body mirrors this alignment. Breathing remains steady and smooth. There is no tension left to release. The sense of posture fades into a simple feeling of being supported. Awareness begins to spread again, touching stone, air, and sky without preference. There is no center to focus on, no edge to define. Silence remains complete. It does not invite listening. It allows awareness to rest without effort, without expectation. Imagine sounds dissolve gently before they can take shape. The night feels balanced again, holding both openness and rest at the same time. It does not pull awareness inward or outward. It allows either without resistance. The ancient rhythm beneath everything remains steady and unbroken. It carries land, stone, sky, and breath together in the same gentle motion. There is nothing to anticipate, nothing to recall, nothing to follow. Awareness continues to soften within this open calm, floating gently and then settling again, guided only by comfort and ease. Stone remains aligned. Sky remains wide. Air remains clear and still. The night holds this elevated quiet patiently, allowing rest to deepen naturally, slowly, and without end, as awareness drifts further into the same calm rhythm that has always connected earth and sky in the ancient world. The openness settles into quiet stability. It does not widen further, and it does not close. It remains exactly as it needs to be, offering space without asking awareness to travel anywhere within it. The coolness of the air blends gently with the remaining warmth beneath, creating a balanced stillness that feels calm and complete. Breathing continues naturally, smooth and unbroken, guided by comfort rather than intention. Stone remains cool and composed. Its surfaces hold faint traces of moonlight, not enough to define shape clearly, but enough to suggest order and alignment. Edges soften further, dissolving gently into shadow. The land beneath feels firm and patient. It does not pull attention downward or upward. It simply supports, allowing awareness to rest without direction. The sky remains vast above, but it no longer feels distant. It feels present, like a wide, quiet presence that does not demand attention. Stars remain scattered gently across it, their light muted and steady. Awareness drifts lightly between ground and sky, not moving from one to the other, but resting within the space that connects them. Height and depth lose distinction. Everything feels evenly present. Thought continues to fade. When it appears, it feels distant and thin, dissolving before it can take shape. There is no desire to follow it. It releases itself naturally. The structure here feels complete in its simplicity. It does not suggest purpose or destination. It offers balance, a calm relationship between stone, land, and sky that sustains itself without effort. Human presence has faded again into irrelevance. Whatever intention once shaped this place has dissolved into quiet alignment. Nothing remains that needs to be interpreted. Silence feels wide and clear. It stretches outward gently, not pressing inward. Imagine sounds would travel briefly, then disappear softly into space, leaving no echo behind. Time loosens further, almost completely. Moments no longer follow one another. They overlap softly, blending into a continuous pause. There is no sense of waiting, no awareness of duration. The body responds by settling deeper into ease. Muscles remain relaxed and supported. The sense of posture dissolves further, replaced by a simple feeling of rest. Breathing continues evenly, each breath completing itself without attention. Inhale and exhale flow together seamlessly, guided by the same quiet rhythm that holds the night steady. Awareness becomes less defined. Boundaries blur gently, without resistance. There is no clear separation between inner and outer, near and far. Sensation spreads evenly, touching everything lightly. The structure no longer feels like a place within the night. It feels like an expression of the night itself. Stone holding space, space holding air, air holding awareness. Everything supports everything else. The ancient world feels present here as harmony rather than form, as alignment rather than endurance. This balance does not need to be maintained. It exists naturally. The night does not change. It does not guide awareness towards sleep or wakefulness. It allows either without preference, without signal. Thought dissolves almost entirely now. What remains is a soft awareness of being held within stillness, supported by ground, open to sky, surrounded by quiet. Stone remains aligned. Land remains steady. Sky remains wide and calm. Nothing moves forward. Nothing falls away. The ancient rhythm beneath everything continues steadily, unbroken and effortless. It carries breath, space, and stillness together without urgency. Awareness drifts wherever it wishes, inward, outward, or nowhere at all. There is no need to follow it, and no need to hold it in place. The night remains exactly as it is, calm and balanced, allowing rest to deepen naturally, gently, endlessly, until awareness softens into the same quiet harmony that has always connected earth and sky in the ancient world. The night grows quieter in a different way now, not more silent, but softer, as if the darkness itself has learned how to cushion every thought before it can fully form. The openness of sky and stone begins to feel more fluid. Space no longer feels defined by edges or alignment. It flows gently, like calm water held perfectly still, reflecting darkness without movement. The air feels cooler here, clean and steady. It carries a faint sense of elevation, not of height, but of clarity. Breathing becomes slow and effortless, each inhale arriving without effort, each exhale releasing gently. The land beneath begins to change again. The ground feels smooth and expansive, not sandy, not rough, but polished by time and patience. Stone appears darker here, denser, shaped into long, continuous forms rather than steps or layers. It feels unified, uninterrupted. This place feels deliberate, focused, quietly powerful. The sky above feels deeper now, as if it has widened beyond what can be perceived. Stars remain present, but they appear more distant, less defined. Their light reaches the ground softly, diluted by the vastness it has traveled through. Awareness responds by becoming stiller, not drifting, not lifting, settling into a calm center that does not require focus. The body remains relaxed and heavy, supported fully, while the mind grows quieter, less inclined to move. Stone surfaces here feel cool and smooth. They do not reflect light sharply. They absorb it, holding it briefly before letting it fade back into darkness. Shadows form slowly, without edges, blending seamlessly into the night. The structure spreads outward in long lines, not enclosing, not elevating, but grounding. It feels connected to the land in a way that suggests permanence rather than design. Human presence feels very faint here. Not as memory, not as intention, only as the quiet acknowledgement that this place was meant to endure long after attention moved on. Silence deepens again, not by closing in, but by widening. Sound would not echo here. It would simply fade, dissolving into the openness without resistance. The body responds with deeper relaxation. Muscles soften further, releasing even the subtle effort of holding shape. The sense of form becomes lighter, less distinct. Breathing slows again, becoming almost imperceptible. Each breath feels complete without being noticed. Inhale and exhale blend together naturally. Time loosens further. Moments no longer feel like moments. They stretch into one another smoothly, creating a continuous presence that does not require awareness to track it. The sky feels vast beyond comprehension now. Its depth does not invite exploration. It offers reassurance through its steadiness alone. Nothing changes above, and nothing needs to. The ancient world feels present here through scale rather than form, through the quiet understanding that some things were shaped not to impress, but to last. Stone and land share the same stillness. The air remains cool and clear, moving so slowly that it feels almost still. It supports breathing gently, without calling attention to itself. Awareness begins to soften again. Boundaries blur further. The distinction between body and ground becomes less defined. Sensation spreads evenly, touching stone, air, and space without preference. Thought becomes rare. When it appears, it has no structure, no direction. It dissolves before it can be followed, leaving behind only calm. The structure no longer feels separate from the night. It feels like part of a larger stillness, one that extends beyond sight and beyond time. The night accepts this seamlessly. Silence feels complete, unbroken, effortless. It does not invite listening. It removes the need to notice anything at all. The body rests fully within this calm. There is no impulse to move, no need to adjust. Gravity feels gentle and reliable, holding without pressure. Breathing continues quietly, guided by the same ancient rhythm that holds land and sky together. Awareness drifts inward slightly, then settles again. There is no sense of direction. Movement and stillness feel the same. The ancient world expresses itself here through continuity. Through the idea that endurance does not require effort once balance has been found. Stone remains dark and calm. Land remains steady and wide. Sky remains deep and silent. Nothing asks for attention. Nothing requires meaning. The night remains patient, allowing awareness to soften further, to release gently into the same steady rhythm that has carried this place through countless quiet nights. There is no transition to follow and no ending to reach. Only rest remains, deepening naturally, slowly, endlessly, as awareness drifts further into the calm that holds everything together without effort. The stillness holds, unbroken and complete. It does not deepen further, and it does not lift. It rests at a perfect balance, allowing awareness to remain without effort or direction. The cool clarity of the air remains steady. Each breath moves through it smoothly, quietly, without drawing attention. Breathing feels automatic now, guided by comfort rather than intention. There is no need to notice it. Stone continues to absorb the night. Its dark surfaces remain calm and unified, uninterrupted by edge or ornament. Nothing reflects sharply. Everything softens into shadow, creating a sense of continuity rather than contrast. The ground beneath feels wide and dependable. It supports without pressure, holds without demand. The body responds by releasing fully into this support, muscles resting without tension, form becoming secondary to sensation. Awareness grows quieter still. thought has nearly disappeared. What remains is a gentle presence, a soft knowing of being held within calm. There is no narrative, no direction, no need to observe. The sky above feels immense and distant, yet irrelevant. Its vastness does not pull attention upward. It simply exists, steady and unchanged, carrying stars that no longer ask to be seen. Time dissolves almost completely. There is no sense of how long this moment has lasted or how long it will continue. The idea of duration fades, replaced by a continuous presence that feels both spacious and settled. The structure here no longer suggests shape or purpose. It merges fully with land and night, becoming part of a single, quiet condition. Stone, air, and darkness feel inseparable. Silence becomes absolute. Not empty, not hollow, complete. It surrounds awareness gently, leaving no space for interruption. Imagined sound cannot form here. Everything rests too deeply. The body mirrors this depth. Breathing becomes so subtle that it feels like stillness itself. Muscles remain heavy and relaxed. The boundary between body and ground softens further, almost disappearing. Awareness drifts without movement. There is no inward or outward, no above or below. Sensation spreads evenly, touching everything lightly and nothing in particular. The ancient world feels present here in its most distilled form, not as place, not as structure, but as continuity. A quiet agreement between all things to exist without urgency. This agreement does not require attention that it holds itself. Stone remains steady, land remains wide and calm. Sky remains deep and silent. Nothing changes, and nothing needs to. The night does not guide awareness towards sleep or wakefulness. It allows either without preference, without signal. It simply remains. Thought dissolves completely now. What remains is softness. Warmth and coolness blend. Weight and lightness lose distinction. Awareness becomes less defined, more diffuse, like a gentle haze. Breathing continues on its own, slow and even, guided by the same ancient rhythm that holds everything in place. There is no effort involved in resting here, and no need to remain aware, and no need to let go. The night carries everything effortlessly, without beginning or end. You do not need to remember this place. You do not need to stay with it. It will continue quietly, exactly as it is, long after attention has drifted away. The ancient rhythm flows beneath everything, steady and unbroken, carrying stone, land, sky, and breath together in the same gentle motion. As awareness softens further, there is nothing left to notice, nothing left to follow. Only rest remains, calm, complete, endless, held safely within the same quiet stillness that has always supported the ancient world through countless silent nights. The night feels smoother now, as if every surface has been gently polished by time. Nothing catches or interrupts awareness. Everything allows it to slide softly, without resistance, without direction. The air carries a quiet coolness that feels balanced and clean. It does not chill. It refreshes gently, encouraging slow, steady breathing. Each breath moves in and out with ease, unobserved, complete on its own. The land beneath becomes more expansive again. The ground feels firm and even, stretching outward in all directions. It does not rise or fall noticeably. It simply exists, wide and dependable, offering support without drawing attention to itself. Stone appears once more, but differently now. It is lighter in tone, smoother in presence, arranged with clarity rather than mass. The structure here does not enclose or elevate. It defines space gently, offering orientation without demand. This place feels open and quiet, clear and composed. The sky above is vast and calm, its darkness deep and uninterrupted. Stars remain present, but they feel distant and softened, as if their light has learned how to arrive without disturbance. Awareness responds by floating lightly, not drifting away, not becoming alert, simply resting within openness. The body remains heavy and relaxed, fully supported, while the mind feels unburdened, spacious. Stone surfaces reflect only the faintest suggestion of light. There is no brightness here, no contrast sharp enough to awaken attention. Everything remains within a narrow, soothing range of tone. Shadows lie gently, never hiding, never revealing too much. The structure spreads outward with quiet confidence. Lines are long and steady. Forms feel intentional but unforced, shaped to last without impressing. Human presence feels distant again. Not absent, but no longer relevant. Whatever intention once guided this place has dissolved into balance. There is no urgency left behind, no echo of action. Silence remains wide and clear sound. If it existed, would travel briefly, then fade into the openness without resistance. There is no echo here, only release. The body responds by settling deeper into ease. Muscles remain relaxed, supported by the steady ground. The sense of posture fades further, replaced by a simple feeling of being held. Breathing continues smoothly, unbroken and effortless. Each inhale feels complete. Each exhale releases naturally. Time loosens again. Moments stretch comfortably, overlapping without edges. There is no sense of progress or pause. The night feels continuous, flowing gently without direction. The sky remains steady above, its vastness reassuring rather than overwhelming. Nothing changes there, and nothing needs to. The ancient world feels present here through clarity and alignment, through the understanding that some places were shaped not to contain, but to open, to allow awareness to rest without confinement. Stone, land, and sky remain in quiet agreement. Awareness spreads gently across this agreement, touching space, stone, and air without preference. There is no center to focus on, no edge to define. Thought becomes increasingly rare. When it appears, it feels light and distant, dissolving before it can form shape or meaning. There is no effort required to release it. The night feels calm and balanced. It does not pull awareness inward or outward. It allows either without resistance, without signal. The structure no longer feels like a destination. It feels like a condition, a state of openness and steadiness that continues whether it is noticed or not. The body mirrors this condition. There is no tension left to release. Muscles remain soft and heavy. Breath continues quietly, guided by comfort rather than intention. Awareness begins to soften further. Boundaries blur gently. The distinction between inner and outer fades. Sensation spreads evenly, touching everything lightly and nothing specifically. Silence remains complete. It does not invite listening. It removes the need to notice anything at all. Imagined sounds dissolve before they can take shape. The night does not change. It remains exactly as it is, clear, open, balanced, allowing rest to deepen naturally, without effort, without transition. The ancient rhythm beneath everything continues steadily and unbroken. It carries land, stone, sky, and breath together in the same gentle flow. There is nothing to follow, nothing to anticipate, nothing to resolve. Awareness drifts gently within this open calm, floating briefly and then settling again, guided only by ease. Stone remains aligned. Land remains wide and steady. Sky remains deep and quiet. The night holds this clarity patiently, allowing rest to continue unfolding naturally, slowly, endlessly, as awareness softens further into the same calm rhythm that has always connected earth and sky in the ancient world. The openness remains gentle and unchanged. It does not invite movement, and it does not resist stillness. It simply holds awareness lightly, like calm air holding a feather without lifting or dropping it. The cool clarity of the night continues to surround everything evenly. The air feels smooth and settled, carrying no signal that asks to be noticed. Breathing flows quietly within it, slow and complete, guided by comfort alone. Stone stays softly illuminated by the faintest suggestion of light. Its surfaces remain smooth and calm, absorbing darkness without interruption. Nothing stands out. Nothing recedes. Everything feels evenly present. The ground beneath remains wide and supportive. It does not press upward. It does not pull downward. It offers stability without effort, allowing the body to rest fully into its support. Awareness becomes quieter still. Thought appears only as a faint echo now, dissolving almost instantly. There is no desire to follow it, no need to release it. It fades on its own, leaving behind softness. The structure feels almost transparent now. Not because it disappears, but because it no longer separates space. Stone, air, and land feel part of the same calm field, indistinguishable in their steadiness. The sky above remains vast and patient. Stars continue their distant movement, but their presence feels abstract, like a quiet assurance rather than a visual detail. Time has nearly vanished. There is no sense of before or after. The idea of duration no longer holds meaning. Awareness rests in a continuous now that does not require attention to remain. The body settles deeper. Muscles rest completely, heavy and relaxed. The sense of posture dissolves. The boundary between body and ground softens further, as if both share the same stillness. Breathing becomes so subtle that it feels almost still. Inhale and exhale merge seamlessly, guided by the same ancient rhythm that holds land and sky together. Silence feels complete and effortless. It does not press inward or expand outward. It simply exists, full and calm, removing the need to notice anything at all. The ancient world feels present here in pure balance, not as monument or memory, but as a quiet agreement. Stone resting on land, land opening to sky, sky holding darkness without strain. This agreement sustains itself without effort. Awareness continues to soften, spreading gently and then settling again. Direction no longer matters. Near and far dissolve into the same quiet field. There is nothing to observe, nothing to interpret, nothing to hold. The night does not guide awareness towards sleep or wakefulness. It allows both equally, without preference or signal. Thought dissolves completely now. What remains is a gentle presence, calm, unburdened, undefined. Sensation becomes faint and unified, blending into stillness. Stone remains aligned. Land remains steady. Sky remains wide and silent. Nothing changes, and nothing needs to. The ancient rhythm beneath everything continues steadily, unbroken and effortless. It carries breath, space, and stillness together in the same gentle flow. Awareness drifts wherever it wishes or nowhere at all. There is no need to follow it, and no need to remain aware. The night remains exactly as it is, clear, calm, complete, allowing rest to deepen naturally, quietly, endlessly, until awareness softens fully into the same quiet harmony that has always held the ancient world together. The night becomes almost weightless now. Not empty, not thin, simply free of effort, as if even stillness has relaxed into itself. The air feels softer than before, gently cool and evenly balanced. It no longer feels like something surrounding the body. It feels like something the body rests within, without boundary or resistance. Breathing continues quietly, smooth and unbroken. The land beneath feels distant in a comforting way. Still present, still supportive, but no longer demanding awareness. Its steadiness has become assumed, reliable enough to be forgotten. Stone appears again, but only as suggestion, not clearly defined forms or surfaces, but a quiet sense of order beneath the calm. Structure exists here without drawing attention. It holds space gently without separating it. This place feels suspended, not floating, held. The sky above is vast beyond perception now. Darkness stretches smoothly in all directions, uninterrupted by contrast. Stars remain somewhere beyond awareness, but their presence feels symbolic rather than visual, a quiet reassurance rather than a point of focus. Awareness responds by becoming very still, not drifting, not spreading, resting. The mind no longer moves easily from one sensation to another. It settles into a soft center that does not require focus or effort. The body remains relaxed and heavy, supported fully. Muscles feel loose and warm. The sense of form fades further, replaced by a simple feeling of ease. Silence reaches a new quality here. It is no longer something that surrounds awareness. It feels like something awareness is made of. There is no difference between hearing nothing and being nothing in particular. Thought does not appear now. There are no fragments, no impressions, no images forming clearly enough to notice. What remains is presence without content, calm, quiet, sufficient. Time has disappeared completely. There is no sense of moment or duration. No before, no after. The night exists as a single, continuous state that does not move forward. The ancient world feels present here as essence rather than form. Not stone, not land, not sky, but the rhythm that holds them together. A steady agreement to exist without urgency, without resistance. Breathing continues on its own, faint and even. It does not draw attention. It does not mark time. It simply happens. The structure, the land, the sky, all feel equally distant and equally close. Near and far lose distinction. Inside and outside dissolve. Awareness softens further. There is no longer a sense of observing anything. Presence becomes diffuse, gentle, like a calm mist resting without movement. The night does not change. It does not deepen or lighten. It remains exactly as it is, complete and balanced, requiring nothing. Stone remains steady beneath everything, unseen but certain. Land remains wide and patient. Sky remains vast and silent. Nothing asks to be noticed. Nothing needs to be followed. The ancient rhythm beneath it all continues effortlessly, carrying everything together in the same calm flow. You do not need to remain aware of this place. It continues whether attention stays or fades. Awareness drifts gently into this rhythm, becoming softer, quieter, less defined, resting without effort in the same calm that has always supported the ancient world through countless silent nights. The stillness holds without effort. It does not settle further, and it does not loosen. It remains exactly as it is, calm and complete, like a deep body of water that no longer moves at the surface. The air feels almost indistinguishable from awareness now. It does not brush against the skin. It does not surround. It simply exists as the same gentle field that holds everything else. Breathing continues quietly within it, so subtle that it feels more like a rhythm than an action. The body rests fully. There is no sense of weight pressing downward, and no feeling of lightness lifting upward. Support is simply assumed, constant enough to disappear from attention. Muscles remain loose and warm, resting without effort, without adjustment. Stone and land feel very distant now, not because they have moved away, but because they no longer need to be noticed. Their steadiness has become absolute. It does not require confirmation. Structure exists here only as calm order. Not as walls or forms, but as a quiet understanding that everything has a place and nothing is out of balance. This order does not restrict. It releases. The night remains vast and unbroken. Darkness stretches smoothly in all directions, without texture, without contrast. Stars continue their slow paths far beyond awareness, but they no longer feel separate from the dark that holds them. Awareness becomes very soft. There is no focus, no drift, no movement from one sensation to another. Presence rests evenly, like a gentle haze with no center and no edge. Thought does not return. There are no fragments forming, no impressions rising to the surface. The mind has stopped producing shape or direction. What remains is quiet being. Time does not exist here. There is no sense of length or duration, no idea of waiting or arriving. The night is not passing. It is simply present, complete within itself. The ancient world feels present now only as continuity. Not as history, not as place, but as the quiet truth that things can exist without effort, without urgency, without needing to change. Breathing continues faintly, almost imperceptible. Inhale and exhale blend together so completely that they feel like a single, endless motion. The boundary between breath and stillness dissolves. Awareness spreads gently, then becomes still again. Direction has no meaning. Near and far feel the same. Inside and outside are no longer distinct. The night does not guide awareness anywhere. It does not invite sleep or wakefulness. It does not encourage release or holding. It simply allows whatever happens to happen without interference. Silence is total. Not the absence of sound, but the presence of complete calm. There is nothing for sound to move through, nothing for it to interrupt. The body remains at ease. There is no impulse to move, no sensation calling for adjustment. Everything has already settled into its most comfortable state. Stone remains unseen but certain. Land remains steady and wide. Sky remains vast and silent. Nothing changes. The ancient rhythm beneath everything continues effortlessly, steady and unbroken. It does not speed up. It does not slow down. It does not mark time. It simply carries. Awareness drifts further into this rhythm, becoming lighter, quieter, less defined. Presence softens into something almost indistinguishable from stillness itself. There is no need to remain aware of this moment. There is no need to remember it. The night will continue exactly as it is, whether attention stays or fades completely as awareness softens further. There is nothing left to notice, nothing left to follow, nothing left to release. Only rest remains, deep, calm, endless, held gently within the same quiet harmony that has always supported the ancient world, and continues to do so without effort, without change, without end. The night reaches a place of complete ease, not deeper, not lighter, simply settled, as if it has arrived at a point where nothing more is required. There is no clear sense of space now. Distance and direction have softened beyond definition. Awareness rests within a gentle calm that does not expand or contract. It simply exists, steady and quiet. The air feels neutral, perfectly balanced. It does not feel cool or warm. It does not move or pause. Breathing continues quietly within it, so subtle that it feels like part of stillness itself rather than an action. The body remains fully at rest. Muscles no longer register weight or position. Support is complete and unquestioned. The boundary between body and ground has softened into cooperation, as if both share the same state of calm. Stone and land are present only as certainty, not as texture or form, but as the quiet knowledge that everything is held, supported, stable. There is no need to sense them directly. Their steadiness is absolute. Structure no longer appears as shape. It exists only as balance, an unspoken order that keeps everything in harmony without effort. Nothing presses inward. Nothing drifts apart. The night feels endless in the gentlest way. Not long, not eternal, simply continuous, without edges. There is no sense of beginning or end. The idea of time has dissolved completely. Awareness becomes very soft now. There is no focus, no movement, no curiosity. Presence rests evenly, like a calm surface without ripple. There is no center and no boundary. Thought does not appear. There are no images, no impressions, no fragments forming. The mind has released its need to create or follow. What remains is quiet being. The ancient world feels present here in its purest form. Not as monument, not as place, not as story, but as continuity. The simple truth that existence does not require effort to continue. Breathing flows faintly, almost imperceptible. Inhale and exhale are no longer separate experiences. They merge into one endless, gentle rhythm. The night does not guide awareness towards sleep. It does not resist it either. It allows awareness to soften naturally, without signal, without instruction, without transition. Silence is complete and full. Not something surrounding awareness, but something awareness is part of. There is no difference between listening and resting. Everything is already quiet. The body remains deeply at ease. There is no sensation asking for attention. No tension left to release. No movement waiting to happen. Stone remains steady beneath everything. Land remains wide and patient. Sky remains vast and silent. Nothing changes. The ancient rhythm beneath it all continues effortlessly, steady and unbroken. It does not mark time. It does not move forward. It simply holds. Awareness drifts gently into this rhythm, becoming softer, quieter, less defined. Presence blends into stillness without resistance. There is no need to stay aware. There is no need to let go. The night will continue exactly as it is, calm and complete, whether awareness remains or fades completely. As this quiet holds, rest deepens naturally, not as an event, not as a moment, but as a state that has always been here, waiting without waiting, holding everything gently in the same ancient calm. The calm remains absolute. It does not deepen, and it does not soften further. It has reached a quiet completeness where nothing needs to be added and nothing needs to fade away. Awareness rests within this calm without effort. There is no sense of holding on, and no sense of drifting away. Presence simply exists, gently suspended in stillness. The air feels indistinguishable from the space itself. It carries no temperature, no movement, no texture that asks to be noticed. Breathing continues so softly that it feels less like breath and more like a natural rhythm of rest. The body is fully released now. There is no awareness of limbs or position. Weight is no longer felt as heaviness, and lightness is no longer felt as lift. Support has become complete enough to disappear from attention altogether. Stone and land remain as certainty alone, not as surfaces, not as form, but as the quiet assurance that everything is stable, grounded, held. There is no need to sense them. Their presence is unquestioned. Structure no longer exists as design or intention. It exists only as balance, the invisible order that keeps everything exactly where it belongs without effort or adjustment. Nothing leans, nothing drifts, everything rests. The night feels infinite in the gentlest sense. Not endless in length, but seamless in continuity. There is no sense of before or after. The idea of time has dissolved so completely that it no longer feels missing. It feels irrelevant. Awareness becomes even softer. There is no observation happening now. No watching, no noticing. Presence is diffuse, calm, evenly spread, like a gentle field without center or edge. Thought does not arise. There are no fragments, no images, no inner movement. The mind has become quiet not through effort, but because there is nothing left to respond to. The ancient world is present here as pure stillness, not as ruins, not as names, not as memory, but as the deep rhythm that has always existed beneath form. A rhythm that does not change, does not hurry, does not pause. Breathing continues faintly, almost unnoticeable. Inhale and exhale have merged completely, forming a single, continuous motion that no longer feels separate from stillness. The boundary between breath and calm dissolves. The night does not encourage sleep, it does not resist wakefulness, it remains neutral, allowing awareness to fade or remain without preference. There is no signal, no instruction, no transition point. Silence is complete and effortless. Not something that fills space, but something space is made of. There is no gap where sound could appear. Everything rests too deeply. The body remains deeply at ease. There is no impulse to move, no sensation waiting for attention, no tension hidden beneath awareness. Everything has already settled into its most natural state. Stone remains steady beneath everything, unseen but absolute. Land remains wide and patient, unquestioning. Sky remains vast and silent, beyond perception. Nothing shifts. Nothing ends. The ancient rhythm beneath it all continues effortlessly, steady and unbroken. It does not guide. It does not follow. It simply exists, holding everything in quiet agreement. Awareness continues to soften within this rhythm. There is no longer a sense of self separate from calm. The idea of being aware loses meaning. Presence becomes something gentle and undefined, like a soft haze resting without movement. There is nothing to remember, nothing to return to, nothing to release. The night does not mark this moment as special or final. It treats it the same as every other quiet moment it has ever held. With patience and indifference to attention, rest deepens naturally, not as an event, not as a crossing, but as a continuation of what has always been here. Calm resting within calm, stillness holding stillness. You do not need to stay with this place. You do not need to remain aware of it. It will continue exactly as it is, with or without attention. The seven wonders of the ancient world no longer appear as places or forms. They exist here only as endurance, as the quiet truth that balance, once found, does not need to be maintained. Stone rests. Land holds, sky remains. The ancient world continues its calm existence beneath awareness, beneath thought, beneath memory. Steady, silent, unchanged as awareness fades further. There is nothing left to notice, nothing left to follow, nothing left to become. Only rest remains, calm, complete, endless, held gently within the same ancient stillness that has always been here, and will continue quietly, without effort, long after awareness has softened into silence.